the 2010s, not so long ago. Does feel like a lifetime for some of these movies that we're going to be talking about today. We've got three of us on deck doing top 10 from the 2010s, 2010 all the way to 2019. Expect a wide range of movies here, a lot of passion, a lot of intensity, maybe some emotion. We'll see. I'm Austin Johnson.
I'm Connor Eyzaguirre.
And I'm Adam Johnson.
And this is Filmgazm. All right. Top 10 lists are always a lot of fun. I want to kind of jump right into this. I've got a few statistics that I want to shout out, and a few kind of rules that we set for this project here. So we got three of us. Adam's going to go first in naming his movies, then Connor, then myself. And we'll go 10, 10, 10, 9, 9, 9, 8, 8, 8, so on and so forth. The stats I want to shout out real quick. This is obviously a huge pool of movies from 2010 to 2019. Like hundreds for each of us. So I went through y'all's Letterboxd. I did a little bit of detective work here. Adam, you have, because you are a much different Letterboxd user than myself, and I would say even Connor. You're not as gracious with the 5-star ratings. So on your Letterboxd, as I looked at it, you have 10 5-star movies from the 2010s, but two of them are 30 for 30s that were technically, TV documentaries. One of them is the Two Escobars. I also have it a 5-star. And the other one is Hillsborough. I also have that a 5-star. Both soccer documentaries that are excellent. Highly recommend them. And then you have 8 others that were up for grabs for this project that are, so I imagine all of those will be on your list here, the 8 5-stars. Then you had to kind of pick a couple of 4.5-star ones. Connor, you have 23 5-star movies. A lot of those are franchise movies. And the rule that you set for yourself, and then Adam and I followed, is we cannot have any franchise titles in this project, in these lists. I love that for you because it allowed you to challenge yourself and pick more singular, idiosyncratic projects, films. And I love that. Adam, I believe you had to make one sort of change. Because you want to do it two. One of them being Mad Max?
Yes.
Okay. Mad Max and Toy Story 3. You had to kind of cut out of your list because you're like, hey, I love those, but I also want to follow this rule if you guys are following it. I did not have any on mine, but I do love some franchise stuff from for the decade. But Connor, I imagine you had a tough time. Killing your darlings there is a ballsy move, and I love it. So 23 is still a lot. You take away your franchise stuff, you still have a lot to choose from. There are 5 stars, but from the math that I did, you still had to kind of reach into the pool of 4.5-star movies on your Letterboxd. You also have a lot of 5-star stand-up comedy specials on your Letterboxd. I was like, man, this guy likes to laugh. I tell you what.
I almost didn't include stand-up specials on my Letterboxd, but I think I got bored one day and was like, fuck it, let's throw them in.
Yeah, well, that's sometimes an hour and a half of your life. Yeah, fuck it.
Exactly.
Fuck it.
And usually if I'm not laughing, I'm just going to turn it off. So if I'm going to finish it, I liked it.
Yeah.
The franchise rule, when we did this, a similar project way back when we started the first podcast, and my list was like, Harry Potter, Marvel, like just loaded with franchise stuff. And that's great. Those are great movies. I don't want to take away from that. But I feel like I've grown a lot as a film fan and as a person, and I wanted to single out individual stories, original stories, unique movies, and kind of just, separate myself for a bit from franchise fatigue, which I've definitely been getting lately.
Yeah.
Like that. So I Connor, how many, if you would not have created that rule, how many would you have put in your top 10?
Oh, at least 4.
Okay.
Avengers Endgame would have been there. Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2 would have been there. Toy Story
John Wick
would have been there. John Wick would have been there. Yeah, it would have been overloaded.
Yeah.
Okay. So Toy Story 3 was one that I would have had in mind as well. That and Mad Max Fury Road, and also Mad Max. We just did that, so I'm like, I don't need to. I mean, it probably is one of my 10 favorite. But I was like, we just talked about that. I don't really need to include that again here, because we did an entire podcast on it. So that was kind of the two that I see. For me, so like I'm not a big Marvel guy, so like I didn't even like consider like a single one. But I was curious because I know you were the one who kind of came up with that rule, how it would have it hampered you. So that's interesting. So I guess about 4 you would have had. That's interesting. Yeah, I would have had. I guess you could say 1.5. You know.
Yeah. Because Mad Max is y'all's episode is great on that movie. I also love that movie. It technically is franchise, but it also is so singular. But again, like you said, Adam, you're kind of like, oh, we just did that. I spilled my passion for it and admiration for it. Great episode. If you like that movie, definitely go back and listen to that. I have 27 5-star movies, the most of all three of us. I give these things out like fucking candy. It's part of kind of who I am. I allow things sometimes to a fault. I allow things to just wash over me and take me over like very, very quickly, whether it be art or even sometimes with like sports moments or people. So there are times where it kind of bites me in the ass, but at the same time, it's who I am. It's like kind of what like kind of has molded me. And I'll take it. I'll stick with that, and I'm not going to shy away from it. So I had a lot of movies to choose from. I just was able to choose 10 movies from my 5-star pool, which made it very difficult. Some of the movies I cut, it's like, God damn, this is just obviously a stacked decade because we have all of us are, Connor and I are in our late 20s, Adam in his early 30s. So this is obviously the decade where we are going to the theater the most. Trying to find ourselves as movie fans, as artistic fans, and that includes TV and whatever else you do, video games, whatever it is. But obviously, it's movies here, so this is going to be awesome. I have the master list kind of, so I can see Adam's movies, Connor's movies, and my movies because there is some overlap. And
right.
I
have not seen. So Connor, I have not seen yours or each other's, but we have
correct.
Yeah.
Correct. Which is kind of like an interesting wrinkle, right? So when it gets to certain movies, like Adam and I have 2 that match, Adam and Connor have 2 that match, and Connor and I have 2 that match. So it's kind of like a perfect. It's kind of like a Wes Anderson symmetrical little thing here.
But none of us have one. Like, there's not one movie that all 3 of us have. Amazing.
No,
yeah.
Isn't that crazy? Yeah, I thought that was pretty mind blowing. Now. Yeah, we'll get to it. There's one that I had to cut where I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. I feel like I'm kind of not being myself here, but you just have to. When you get to the 8, 9, 10, you're like, because list making is it's an art form, and you don't want to just be like 10 serious ass movies. You want to have things that represent who you are. So we're gonna see that as we get going.
On that point, real quick. I mean, I know we gotta get to the movies because there's so
many. No, you're good. You're good.
On that point. I mean, I asked Austin at one point, I said, are you leaning more towards best of the decade or favorite of the decade? Because
favorite.
for me, that's a very different question.
Yes.
And so there are things that I'm curious if you guys had this issue too, that I rated 4.5 that I'm like, ooh, I probably return to that more than some of the ones I have 5. And like, I might have like more fun watching that movie, but this one that's a 5-star is a better movie. Now I ended up including the kind of, I guess technically 7 5-star movies I had since I rolled out Mad Max, but
yeah.
But there was a couple on the 4.5 that I was like, oh, I probably return to that more. Maybe it's like more of a favorite. So I end up kind of splitting the difference a little bit. I did want all 5 stars in there, but yeah, I'm sure you guys had so many more 5 stars than I did. Were there some 4.5s that you're like, oh dang, I kind of want to get that in there? Like, was that hard to do?
I kind of didn't look at them because it's like, it's 27 so many. It's enough to be kind of like, all right. And the way I use Letterboxd specifically is very much like a Goofy movie is a 5-star movie on my Letterboxd. I'm well aware it's not the greatest feat of the 90s, but in my mind, in my world, it's one of the most rewatched movies of my entire life. And so like that's what gets 5 stars for me. It's great when the stars align and you get like a Zodiac where you're like, oh, not only have I seen this 45 times, but it also might be one of the like 5 greatest movies of that actual decade. Sure. Connor, how about you?
I have always taken into account my own personal feelings over any critical acclaim. That's always been a priority to me. If I like the movie, if I go back to the movie, if the movie gets something out of me, it matters. I don't care what people have said about it. I don't care what people have claimed, the status it's received over the years. It could be from 1935. It could be from last week. If it got something out of me, it belongs to me.
Yeah.
I like that. So yeah. And I probably let a critical, like, what does this like mean in the zeitgeist, like in too much in my mind. But I will say for this, like, I do still think there is a difference between my favorite and the best. Like there are things that I think that's a better movie. Like, okay, I'm trying to think of I won't use an example because I don't want to say anything that's on either of our lists, but like, okay, this is a better movie, but I like this movie more. Does that make sense? Like I can do that. Like regardless of what anybody else is saying about it.
Yeah.
I think this is like empirically a better movie, but I do like this one more.
Yeah.
The Goofy movie is kind of a funny example of that because like I love the Goofy movie, but like, is it better than
Shawshank Redemption?
Yeah, no. I mean, no.
But I might like it more.
But I might like it more. That's a good example.
My favorite example is, I think, like 2007 is such like a stellar year, and you have, There Will Be Blood and Zodiac and No Country. But if someone was like, yeah, you know what, fuck it, I like Superbad better than all of them, I would be like, I get it. I get
Fair
why
enough.
you probably have seen it 45 times and you just enjoy it. Now, if you're going to come to me and be like, it's a better piece of art than those other three, then I think it's a conversation.
Yeah, it's a good point. I think I've just, when it comes to film, I grew up with films that weren't necessarily critical, favorites, but they were significant to me. So I've always viewed film as more of a personal journey than a kind of artistic, trying to prove something kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I can respect anybody's journey and how they're going on it. We're all on this ride, but we're all taking different flights, basically.
Yeah. I think on that, like Austin, we had parents who definitely were into movies, and like we definitely like they showed us stuff, and like they take us to movies and stuff like that. But I will say, like, as I got older and I started to like really dive into this world like deeper, I'm like a total like obsessive. Like I can't do things like lightly. Like if I follow stuff, I follow it like really, really closely. Like my goal is to be like an expert on the topic, So when I started to kind of like dip my toe in the movie world, I needed some sort of like filter system. Like I couldn't just be like, okay, here's entire history of movies. Like, how do I like narrow this down? So I started listening to podcasts and like listening to people, older than me. Like, hey, you'd like this, or this would be good. Or, oh, I really like the way these people talk about movies, and these are the movies they like. So I'll dip into those too. So I do kind of like have it as like a filter system. It wasn't kind of passed down as much. So I think that's like bled into how I like, rate them as well. So for better or worse, I think there's some positive that come with that, because I've discovered a ton that I would not have without that. But there also is times where I'm like, I probably let it color my own opinion of it a little bit too much.
Yeah. And that's a good point, because I don't know what that's like. I've never had to like kind of start from scratch and figure out like, what should I watch? It's always just been a part of my DNA since I was a kid. So I respect that. I respect like the way you're kind of going about this.
Yeah. And you two simply watch like more than I do, like just like quite a bit more than I do. So, you're operating from like a wider range of like seeing things. Now this decade, I obviously saw a ton. I mean, that's this decade was my 20s. Like I turned 20 in 2010. So, it's like a perfect time as you're like starting to get really into this stuff. And I was going to the theater a ton. I was living in a town for I guess 4 of those years where the movie tickets were like $4 for students. So I saw movies every weekend, like multiple weekend. I'd go back to back. So I mean, it was awesome. So a lot of these actually. Yeah.
College Station, baby.
Yeah, College Station, Texas. Shout out Cinemark in College Station, Texas.
Yeah.
I've
got a movie we saw there together on my list. So
were there other people with us?
I think one, maybe 2 people, definitely one. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I have a feeling I know what it is, but yeah.
It's not Monsters University. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's I can't wait to hear kind of you guys' like stories with these movies. And obviously I am like kind of the connector here between, Connor's one of the best friends I've ever had in my life, and Adam's my oldest brother, and we're very, very close. He was the best man at my wedding. I was the best man at his. We're not just brothers. We're like very, very tight. And so we have these conversations all the time. So I wasn't that surprised by y'all's list, but you guys might learn a lot about each other through this. So Adam, without further ado, give us your number 10.
Okay. This is one I just like, it's a 4.5 for me on Letterboxd, and I saw it in theaters. Also, we saw it in theaters together.
New York, baby. Yeah.
In New York on Times Square. Yeah. In New York. And I knew nothing about the movie when I went into it. I was like, man, what is this? Like, it came out in 2010. We were on a trip with, I guess, our dad and one of our other brothers.
Yeah.
An impromptu, like, late summer kind of trip to New York. We went to a basketball game, I remember. So we were just like, oh, let's see a movie. This looks like kind of fun. Like, we'll see. And I knew nothing about it. This whole world was like not that interesting to me. But it is Scott Pilgrim versus the World.
Yes.
My number 10 movie. It has grown on me so much in the years since then. I've seen it a ton since then. When I first saw it, I was like, oh, that was fun. I left the theater thinking like, oh, that's pretty cool. Like, it didn't really do that great a business, but it has had this like second life on streaming services and through the music and stuff like that. And the cast, like, you look at it now and it's like they've gone on to do crazy. I mean, it's just like a loaded cast. So every time I watch it, I like it more and more. And I saw it, I don't know, maybe 2 summers ago, and showed a couple people it, and they were like, this movie is incredible. Like, this is so funny. This is so clever. Really well done. The music is awesome. So that was my number 10. I really want to kind of squeeze it in there at number 10. So Scott Pilgrim versus the World.
Love it. Love this movie. It's great. Also 4.5 star kind of movie for me. And I have a similar, just kind of, we obviously saw it for the first time together. And do you remember, I can't remember what M. Night Shyamalan movie had a trailer, but everybody just laughed. Because it's New York. It was like highbrow. It was like a nice theater downtown, and everyone was just like fucking like just like, oh, here comes M. Night, just stroking it. I just can't remember what movie it was for.
2010. That had to be The Last Airbender.
It is. It is. Yeah.
Yeah, so awesome. That's when I was 15. Adam was 20, and I was just kind of like, these are my people. Oh yeah, good stuff. Connor, what's your story with Scott Pilgrim?
You guys aren't gonna like this.
Oh no.
I've seen Scott Pilgrim versus the World one time and I didn't care for it. But admittedly,
devastating.
This was my like sophomore year of college, and I was still very early in what kind of film buff I wanted to be. I know that college is kind of when I figured this out with my film classes that I took. And this was a film that was part of my intro to film class, like to show off. I don't remember why she put it on the syllabus, but I watched it and I thought, this is goofy. Like, what is this? So I want to watch it again because I'm a much different person now, and I feel like I'd appreciate it a bit more. So I definitely am going to watch that again.
Yeah, well, good news. We're going to be doing a singular episode on every single movie that's named today. So the first movie we will do after this next week is Scott Pilgrim versus the World. Let's go.
Let's go.
This is great. Edgar Wright's the man. He's had a really cool career, and one of the most unique films from the decade. And I think, Adam, the coolest thing now, 13 years later, fuck me, is the cast. I mean, there's like Oscar winners in this movie.
Yeah.
And Captain America. Yeah.
How much do you want to talk about, each movie, like, in terms of, like, the director, and also obviously, you said this is Edgar Wright, but yeah, real quick, I'll just go through kind of the, like, here's the cast. Yeah. Michael Cera, Mary Elizabeth Winstead, Kieran Culkin, Anna Kendrick, Allison Pill, Aubrey Plaza, Jason Schwartzman, Johnny Simmons, Ellen Wong, Mark Webber, Ben Lewis, Nelson Franklin. I mean, it's just like this, murderer's row of really awesome people. And then, like, some kind of really fun, like, little, like, smaller roles too for some people too. Which I've left off. Austin, you can go ahead, with your Captain America. I mean, Brie Larson, like Chris Evans. Yeah. It's like just these like incredible Brandon Routh, like these like crazy. Bill Hader is the voice of the movie. Like it's a murderer's row.
Yeah. Did you guys see that they're doing an animated series with the entire cast coming back?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's insane. Pretty cool. Yeah, it's a testament to its fan club is just very dedicated, and I will watch that simply because they got everybody, literally everybody back for it. So that's telling you something.
Yeah. Good pick. Good way to start this out. I was not expecting that.
Yeah. We all three have kind of like fun first picks. So Connor, you're next with your number 10.
My number 10, I had no intention to see this. The trailer looked goofy. It looked derivative. And I was like, this is dumb. It's culture eating itself. And then I got invited to an employee screening when we were working at Draft House. It was a rainstorm. I was like, why not? I got nothing going on. And I fell in love with this insanely cool movie, Ready Player One.
Steven.
See, the closest to a franchise film I'm going to get here. It was,
yeah.
It's everything. It's, we get a little Back to the Future, some Jurassic Park, some The Shining, fucking World of Warcraft, like everything shoved into this crazy pop culture balloon. And when I went to see it, the power went out during the climax. And I was so pissed because I had to go drive home in the rain. And then I went and saw it again the next morning because I was like, I want to see how this fucker ends. I'm really into this. And it was amazing. I haven't, like, it's become part of my, part of my collection. I watch it all the time. It's such an awesome movie. It's, who else to do a film about a future where pop culture is literally like people live and breathe pop culture to exist. Spielberg's got to be the guy to do that. I read the book by Ernest Cline. Great book. The sequels book, Ready Player 2, was awesome too. I'm surprised that hasn't become a movie yet, considering how successful this was.
Yeah.
But it's fun, it's exciting, it's memorable, and it's just loaded with Easter eggs of pop culture from every decade. So definitely a good place to start for me.
Nice. Yeah. Steven Spielberg's never a bad place. I've only seen this once. I need to rewatch it. I saw it with people who were just not like on board at all, and that made it kind of sad. I wanted to see it because it's Spielberg, and I want to see everything he does, especially if I get a chance to see it in theaters, because we don't know how much longer he's going to be, doing this thing. So, also an insane cast, T.J. Miller, Mark Rylance, Simon Pegg, Ben Mendelsohn, like all these crazy fuckers in this movie. Makes it fun.
Yeah, I saw this in theater the one time, and I didn't dislike it. I just kind of was like, oh, that was cool, and I don't know why I've not watched it since then, but I did see it in theater and thought it was decent. Yeah. Also, you talk about the cast. Ralph Ineson is in as well, which is Finchy from the original Office. The British Finchy.
Ralph Ineson is an imposing motherfucker.
Yes. Yeah, but no, I had no idea this was gonna be on there. So this was what year was it? 2018.
2018. Yeah.
I'm looking at now. Yeah. So yeah, I'm also curious to see our split of like the years where the movies came out. Like if that says anything about this either. Like that's gonna be really interesting to see, because I've I guess a couple from one year, a couple from another. Yeah. It's interesting. It's a decent spread though.
We all did pretty good about like kind of spreading the wealth. I think we all kind of had that in mind without really having to think about it. So we got 2010 off the board, 2018 off the board. Yep. My number 10 also, this is cool because we all three of our number 10s are just kind of fun and kind of tell a lot about us. My number 10 is 2016's Everybody Wants Some.
That was my last cut.
Richard Linklater's. I almost made myself a rule with like I can only have one movie per director, and I was like, nah, fuck that. You'll find out.
Rule.
Only you would have to make that rule.
I did make that rule. I did make that rule.
Oh.
Yeah.
I ended up not following it with one guy. You can probably guess who, but Linklater, he's got Before Midnight, Boyhood, and this. I love all three of those movies. They're all kind of 10 out of 10, 5-star kind of movies, but. The one that's the most fun, the one that I rewatch the most, is Everybody Wants Some. And I think rewatchability is a big part of my kind of fandom for things. And I have found myself, because it's so kind of easy. It's 2 hours and doesn't feel like it at all, because it's kind of has that Dazed and Confused, pace to it. The quick banter, the kind of just misogynistic young teens, and then also these wild girls who, just kind of like, figuring myself out. And then you throw the whole baseball aspect into it. It's just so cool. I love this movie to death. I saw it by myself in theaters when I was living in Houston. Actually, I saw it in the Woodlands because it wasn't playing everywhere. But I felt very Texan that day, watching my guy Link, and in a place that he, is very, very, very fond of and very familiar with, the Houston area, East Texas. So. That movie kicks ass. I cannot wait to do an episode on it. Like, I'm just going to be in heaven. I can't wait.
That is going to be my favorite part of this whole project, is getting to do all of these films in depth. That's going to be fun.
Yeah. So, Connor, have you seen this?
I have not.
Okay, so yeah, this was my last cut. Like I literally had it at like number 11. And part of the reason I cut it is I thought, Austin, you might put it on there. So I was like, hopefully Austin does. So I'm really glad you did. So we had a chance to talk about it.
Should we talk about our boy or what?
Well, which one?
I'd say Glenn Powell wins this movie by a
Glenn Powell,
landslide.
yeah, Glenn Powell is so good in this movie. So I one of the reasons I love this movie so much is it's one that kind of grows on you, like as you know, the more you kind of see it. I mean, I loved it the first time, but it's like every time you see it, you like it kind of more and more. It's people call it, you know, the spiritual sequel to Dazed and Confused.
Yeah,
which I think is like totally fair. So he played
so
Linklater.
cool. Yeah.
Linklater played college baseball in kind of a, you know, smallish town, Texas. So clearly he has an eye for all this stuff. The cast is really good, and also as someone who has coached, you know, sports for, you know, tons of years, they nail what it's like to be around like kind of like, I don't know, like alpha male guys that are like trying to like compete for different like spots on the team. And like there's clearly a leader, there's clearly a guy that's kind of a punching bag, like there's kind of the bro of the team, there's the kind of sweetheart of the team, there's the like wisecracking guy of the team. Like they nailed that perfectly. And like that is what it's like to be like, you know, a part of a team, especially one that's like, you know, that cares and, you know, has like a bit of a hierarchy. So yeah, it's clearly made by somebody who understands kind of what he's talking about. And it's really good. And it's a solid cast. I mean, Wyatt Russell, I think, is so good.
Oh, Willoughby. Yeah.
It's hilarious.
When that big moment happens with his character and he just kind of looks around and he's like, well, came here for a good time, not for a long time. Yeah, it's so good. Yeah, I adore this. The music in it, god damn, like just Linklater is one of the kings of soundtracks, needle drops. So yeah, man, I can't wait for Connor to see this. I've always kind of pushed like, hey Connor, I think you really dig this movie, and now we have a reason to really dig into it. So I cannot wait, man. And any chance I get to talk about Linklater, I'm gonna take it.
Connor, I assume you like Dazed and Confused.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, of course.
Okay, so yeah, you'll like this then. Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's it, but like it's hard. I hate saying this, but it's like a better Dazed and Confused because of just like how much better of a filmmaker Richard Linklater is nowadays, and how much more control he has, how much more money he has, quite frankly. I'm not going to call it just in a vacuum like a better movie. Like if you like Days better, that's totally fine. I love both of them pretty equally, but everybody wants some just the production value and just kind of it's so refined for what a movie, the kind of movie it is. It feels like only Linklater can make it. So yeah, love that one. This is great. Our 10s, Scott Pilgrim, Ready Player One, everybody wants some, is just a fun way. It's going to get a little more serious towards the front end, but yeah, this is cool starting out this way. Adam, number 9.
Number 9, I replaced this relatively late because I wanted to follow the no franchise rules. So I had Toy Story 3 in this slot, but I replaced it with a fellow Pixar film, Inside Out.
Yes.
Saw this with my mom in theaters.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah, really nice memory. And yeah, really just kind of a beautiful movie in terms of describing kind of like they're helping to describe kind of what the mind goes through, different emotions that someone can kind of feel. I do like to feel things. I do feel emotional about movies sometimes, about just art or sports or whatever it may be. I do like accessing that side of me, and this movie certainly did that. Obviously, in a pretty silly way. Some of the voices of I mean, basically the premise is like these different voices represent different like emotions in someone's mind. It's a young girl that we're kind of like is like our, you know, Riley is the character's name. Sorry, Avatar. Amy Poehler, Lewis Black, Bill Hader, Mindy Kaling, Richard Kind, Phyllis Smith, Diane Lane. They're all voices in this movie. Yeah, really just kind of a killer.
Richard Kind.
Yeah,
we just don't deserve him. Yeah, we just don't.
Yeah. So it's really kind of a beautiful movie. I mean, I laughed, you know, I definitely cried at different points. Seen it a couple times since the theater experience. And the theater experience was great. I saw it this theater in Dallas. It was kind of like one of those like not original, but like the kind of like recliner and like bring you food, you know, non-draft house division. And yeah, I really enjoyed it. So we were there for a basketball tournament and took a night to go watch this. So really good memory. Directed by Pete Docter, a kind of a Pixar veteran. So yeah, really good movie. Inside Out. What do you guys think?
Oh yeah, I'm obsessed with this movie. It's definitely something I had a hard time cutting out. It's probably outside of Toy Story my favorite Pixar movie of all time. So yeah, I think it's completely mind blowing, and it's kind of hit. And I remember every time I watch it, even though I've seen it like 10 times, it always seems to just kind of hit a certain, you know, chord in my mind. And the most recent time that I watched it all the way through was my wife and I, Brianna, we went and saw it at the drive-in theater in New Braunfels, Stars and Stripes, and that was a really, really cool experience to watch it outside, like under the stars, and just kind of, you know, be with someone that you can kind of just be quiet with, you know, and kind of just let these kinds of things kind of wash over you, and you drive home and you're both just kind of like, damn, you know, like God, that's just one of those movies that even though it's aimed at children, it feels very much like it's timeless and ageless. So I love this one.
Well, that's always been Pixar's biggest strength is
Yeah,
making
connecting.
films aimed at kids that can trigger an emotional response out of the parents. And Inside Out, God damn that movie's being like used in like to teach kids about their emotions, which I love. And it's a very essential film and just a mind-blowingly sad movie. We all know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, yeah.
I can't watch that scene without just falling apart. But it is a phenomenal movie. It would have made my list had there not been another Pixar movie that hit me just a bit harder.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. The Take Her to the Moon for me is like one of the just all time like just chills like all the way up your all the way up your arms, the hairs on the back of your neck standing up type moments and Richard Kind just God bless. So great pick, Adam. Great.
Thank
pick.
you. At the risk of sounding like almost like dumb, I mean, I use some of these visual cues as like things that help me like the way like a memory gets kind of like erased, or it's like, oh, I add these like new ones, so therefore like one's going to pass. There's core memories and things like that. It helps put like a visual representation of like what I think my mind is actually going through at times. As crazy as it is, it's like it was made for a child. I actually think it's like really helpful to like be like, oh no, that's like a big deal. Like that memory is a big deal. Like I've had things happen in my life that are like a bigger deal than other ones, and like those are kind of more core memories. And for people who've seen this movie, you can almost use that as like a shorthand to be like, oh yeah, like what are your core memories? Like I actually asked somebody that at a party like, relatively recently, and they like totally knew. She's like, oh yeah, like I get what you're saying. Like she'd seen the movie, and like that like is a very helpful tool, I think, for people to be like, yeah, what are the things that like stand out more? What are the things that you like got kind of pushed to the back of your mind that like you've made room for other like new memories and new things like that. I think it's like a really cool shorthand for people to kind of like help explain their emotions and thoughts and feelings. It's really lovely.
Yeah, good shit. We're gonna change pace here a bit for Connor's number 9. What do you got, man? And also explain how you almost didn't choose this movie.
So a thematic trilogy is not a franchise. If it's not actually connected, if it's just, a spiritual series of sequels, I don't think it should be off the table.
I agree.
Because I got to have my cornetto. And The World's End is such a perfect cap to Edgar Wright's Cornetto trilogy. It's a story about a boy who became a man but never actually grew up and wants to get together with his high school buddies for one last, rager through their small town, do a pub crawl, 12 pints, and just get blitzed. But they've all grown up and have families and are tired of this asshole, but they decide to go anyway out of pity. And turns out their small town's been taken over by alien robots, and they're the only ones who are human beings, but they're too drunk to do anything about it. It is fucking hilarious. But it also takes a sharp left towards the end and really talks about depression and being stuck in your own life and not knowing what to do next. And, peaking in high school. It reminds me of some people I know, some close people. And it was just like, it got in my head. And I'm like, towards the end, I'm like crying for the guy. It's a great journey and, cyclical, like all of Edgar Wright's films, very brilliantly written, hilarious cast, Simon Pegg, Nick Frost, Martin Freeman, Patty Considine, Bill Nighy plays like the head of the alien network. It's great and just an awesome watch. Great soundtrack, hilarious throwbacks throughout. One I constantly go back to.
Yeah, hilarious movie, but also like you said, has these kind of cool genre bender moments, and I'll just never forget just Simon Pegg, just the way he's dressed in this movie and the way he just kind of carries himself, and the whole kind of pub crawl aspect of it is great. So if you want some, good British banter and good British comedy, this is a great place to go.
Edgar Wright's our first got to pop up here twice on the
yeah.
No, I like this movie a lot. I saw this in theaters. This is one of the ones I saw for $4 at Cinemark College Station.
I saw it in theaters too. It must have been with Jeremy. Because I remember he's a huge fan of of the Cornetto stuff and loves Simon Pegg. I just can't. It must have been with him and someone else. I don't know. And I can't remember what theater it was, but I remember just laughing my ass off and having a good time. At that point, I would have been 13, 18. So yeah, that makes sense.
10 years ago. That's crazy.
Yeah, bloody hell. Yeah. I'm glad you got to put that on there, Connor. And I agree with you. I think that just doesn't count, as far as franchise. It's Edgar Wright's like too creative for that. So I love that pick. My number 9. This is one I had a hard time. I wanted to, there's a year, 2019. There's 3 movies from this year that I like. They're all kind of an equal playing field. I love them all. I wanted to choose one of them just to like kind of save other spots for other stuff. And I knew you guys were gonna go a certain way, so I was like, okay, I'll kind of, I'll zag. And I went with the one that kind of hits me home the hardest, and that's Waves. Trey Edward Schultz's film. A24, just kind of classic, like fun, cool soundtrack. But then you like get into the movie and you're like, oh Jesus Christ, this is really really rough. You get an all-time work from Sterling K. Brown in this movie as the dad. His kids are Taylor Russell, who's I think destined for absolute greatness. Kelvin Harrison, you could say the same about him. Alexa Demi's awesome in this movie. Lucas Hedges is awesome in this movie. It just feels like it's kind of made for me. It's just right up my alley. Very serious at times, very leaning on its cinematography, leaning on kind of its creative decisions, and leaning on that soundtrack heavily, which happens to be stuff that I really like. A$AP Rocky and Tyler the Creator and Tame Impala. And I've read every negative review you can possibly read about this movie just because I kind of want to understand. Any movie I love this much, I want to understand like why people have a problem with it. And I'll be honest, this is one that I understand people who do have a problem with it, but it kind of makes me hold it tighter. And I really think this got missed by I don't want to say kind of the award season, the award circuit, but I do think it just deserved a lot more kind of recognition and shout outs, especially for Sterling K. Brown, man. He just is something else in this movie. So I had to have it on my list. It's too important to me. And
I need to have this one.
Yeah, it's one of those two. I saw it in theaters by myself. Brianna was quite angry about about that. It was a time where I have to fucking see this movie because shout out to Sean Fennessy. He talked about how it's like one of the most moving movies he's seen in the past 10 years. I was like, oh well, if that guy's saying it, then I need to see this movie. And he was right. It was me and one other lady in the theater. I saw it at Embassy here in San Antonio. And after I saw it, I was like, I need to own this movie. I need to show everybody this movie that will like listen to me. And I remember going to, I think at the time was our dad's apartment, and like we watched it with you. And you were kind of like, okay, yeah, I think this is pretty good. And Brianna watched it. And now, anytime it's on Showtime a lot because it's A24 and they have a deal with them. Anytime it's on, doesn't matter like where it's at. It's become kind of this opposite rewatchable where I'm kind of like, oh, like what dark part, what like weird twisted part are we at in the movie now where I'm kind of going to be like brought back to life and just sucked into this movie. Is it going to be Lucas Hedges kind of trying to talk to Taylor Russell? Is it going to be Kelvin Harrison's like big moment in the middle of the movie? You just like kind of never know. And I've seen this movie so many times for being only around for 4 years. So love this one. And I know you guys are going to talk about 2019 later. So so I'll leave it at that.
Indeed. Yeah, no, this is really good. I remember that day you kind of showed it to us, and yeah, it's moving. I mean, it's really moving. Yeah, really hard to watch at times, and definitely makes you think. I think that's probably the thing that stands out the most is it. Yeah, made me think a lot. And Sterling K. Brown has that like gritted teeth, like emotional like thing where he does with his face and just like where it's just like it's almost like scary. It's like he's on the verge of just like coming unglued, or he's on the verge of like yelling at someone, or he's on the verge of just like having this like euphoria. You can't ever tell, but he's really really good in this movie. He's the standout guy, I think.
Yeah, and Connor, I know I pushed and pushed and pushed, and you finally watched it, and I think you also liked it too.
Yeah, you're one of the few people whose recommendations I will get to pretty quickly when they come around. And yeah, I got this through Netflix in the mail, the discs when I was still doing that, and watched it and was just like glued because I was like, this is a lot of trauma, and it was just like fuck. But I got it. I was like, I see what he sees in this, and I'm glad you told me to watch it, and I'm excited to watch it again.
Yeah, doing an episode on it's going to be tough, but also it'd be a great chance to kind of talk about kind of modern A24 and talk about just kind of like the marketing that they use. I can't wait to have those conversations and talk about the cast. That's going to be really cool. Yeah, I'm stoked for it. So Good shit. So we've gotten through our 9s here. Adam, 8.
Number 8. This has a
Oh.
sequel, but I certainly wouldn't call it a franchise. So I thought it was fair to include this one. 2015. What? Good.
And it's just so fucking good.
Yes, yeah. And this would be 2015's Sicario, directed by Denis Villeneuve, starring Josh Brolin, Emily Blunt, Benicio del Toro as kind of the main people. We have John Bernthal showing up here, with Daniel Kaluuya showing up here. Those two guys always make everything better. Like a gripping movie. There's multiple scenes in this that are just like the scene at the border. I don't even want to say more if anybody who has not seen it. Is like an all-timer. It's like the way they shot it, how it's done. Huge fan of Denis Villeneuve. He was one of the only guys that almost broke the multiple movies in the top 10 for.
Okay, yeah. So we can talk about that because neither of Connor or I have any of his movies, but I would say that I think he had the best decade of anybody.
Yeah, there's like 4 or 5 that are like, wow. I mean, or I guess 4, that are really, really good.
Prisoners, Enemy in the same fucking year.
Yep.
Sicario, Arrival.
Yeah.
Man, and then of course he goes on to do Dune, but like Jesus Christ, Blade Runner 2049. Like, man,
yep.
I don't know. The dude was just like he's on a different level during that decade. If you're into that stuff. I'm not going to say that for everybody, but if you're like into like brooding, like dark, just like crazy tones, really cool cinematography from like Deakins is the guy who works with the most here in that decade. If you're into that stuff, like he's the man.
Yeah, excellent score in this movie too. So movies like this that are a little more kind of intense, like this is like, I don't know, like what would you call Sicario? Like, I guess, like, I don't know, like what genre would it fall under? like
a crime thriller? I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, it is frightening at times. So
there's a thriller aspect to it, which is probably my favorite genre of movie. Like, I think the ones that really make me kind of like, that kind of gripping, like almost like stressful, like Uncut Gems is one that I love. Like, that was didn't quite make my top 10. But that feeling, I love that feeling.
Me too.
Like, I love obviously the original kind of 3 Bourne movies, and that kind of like a little bit of intrigue, a little bit of like, it's not even about like solving the movie though. Like, if there's ever like that aspect of it, it's like just kind of letting it like walk over me as I go into this world. And mood setting is a huge deal for me. And Denis Villeneuve is like a master at that. So this was a no-brainer. This is one I had to have on my list.
Yeah, love it. Great pick. Connor, what do you think of Sicario?
I love movies that feel like they're going to happen with or without you. Like, you're just,
I love that.
You're glimpsing in a world that's just in its own head, that's happening independent of a viewer. And Sicario feels like that. You're just along for the ride.
Yep.
I hated the marketing of Sicario. It was the trailer made it look like another Bourne movie. Like,
and kind of almost like kind of bro-y.
Yeah. It was like people like, freshmen are going to have this up in their, like the poster up in their dorm room.
Yes.
And then I watched it and I was just like, holy shit, I've never seen anything like this. This is like a bomb about to explode at all times. And I'm so glad you picked it because now we get to do it.
Dude. Yeah.
I haven't seen Sicario in years. I've thought about it. I'm like, should I watch Sicario? And then I get caught up with something. I was going to include it in my thesis, but I had to cut it. And this is great. Good choice. I hated the sequel. So I'm glad
I didn't hate the sequel. I mean, it's nowhere near as good as Sicario. I didn't hate it. There's some good stuff there. But yeah, it goes a little too far away from kind of the original mood setting. I thought that Villeneuve was so good at. So I was like, I remember I saw it in theaters. I was like, okay, that was fine. But I was like, that was nowhere near as good as the first one. So this again, one I had to have.
Well, if I'm not mistaken, it's directed by I cannot remember the person's name, but not having Denny is like, whoa.
No, it's Stefano Sollima.
There we go. Yeah, it's just like it's written by Taylor Sheridan. Give the guy his flowers. She's great, but you still have to have someone like at the helm that just understands the tone we're going for. I would have loved if it was just left alone. Sicario, just standalone.
Me too.
Standalone film. I remember seeing this in theaters. Like I still remember kind of the images and just kind of being like you guys said, just that. I love the way you put that, Connor, that it's going to happen with or without you. Like, fuck you. I still remember like Josh Brolin, like in flip flops walking in. I'm just like, oh, Jesus. Like, what's this guy been through? oh, and Benicio del Toro, yikes, you know. And this is my favorite Emily Blunt performance.
Yeah, I was about to say we
sure.
have to talk about Emily Blunt. Emily Blunt, action star, A plus, A plus, A plus.
Yeah, no doubt. I can't wait to see kind of the next phase of her career. I'm like super stoked about her. But man, yeah, this is going well. Adam, you just alluded to the movie that Connor has next. Let's hear it.
Oh, interesting. Okay,
Yeah, Uncut Gems.
love it.
This is one of my absolute favorite theater experiences I ever had. It was I went to the Regal Northwoods in San Antonio.
I've never heard that in the same sentence. Favorite movie experience, Regal Northwoods on 281-1604. Never heard that, but hey, shit. It was if you have ever been if you live in San Antonio, you know that place. Oh boy, yeah.
It is what it is. If I can't get it at Draft House, I'll go there. But,
I'll go anywhere. Yeah. I'm with you. I've been to Northwoods and everyone who's like, you want to go there? I'm like, still a big screen.
Yeah. Yeah. They have popcorn and a big screen. Yes.
Yeah. It was sold out. I was able to get one, like the last seat, and it was between two older couples who I don't think were, they weren't like, they didn't know each other. The movie comes on and I'm watching it and I'm like, this is strange, but I'm into it. And I start hearing angry grumbling of like, oh, that's all right. Like they saw Adam Sandler they saw Adam Sandler on the poster and was like, "Ooh, I liked Grown Ups. Let's go see this." And they walked out. Both couples walked out. I had the whole like 4-seat row to myself.
People walked out of mine too.
Like it was amazing. I've never seen that before. Just people be like, "Oh my god," and just leave. It was a movie that had a visceral effect on everybody.
It's so fucking anxiety ridden, but
yeah. Which is why it's so good.
I just watched this like 2 weeks ago for fun, and I every time I'm just like, ugh, like there's this movie, Adam, like is literally made for us. like it's got, I mean, it's the Safdie brothers who are like obsessed with a lot of things we're obsessed with. It's got Kevin fucking Garnett in it, and Lakeith Stanfield and Adam Sandler. Like, are you kidding me? Like, and then to see Connor when you sent me your list and you had it on there, I was like, fuck yeah.
Yeah.
Because I knew I wasn't gonna have it. It just doesn't quite reach that, even though I'm obsessed with it. And Adam sent me his list, and I was like, thank you, Connor. You came to bat for us. So I'm so glad you responded to this movie the same way we did, Connor. Even though you might not be obsessed with Kevin Garnett, like it proves that he's that good at his job in the movie. If you're not like well aware of like what he did in the 2012 playoffs.
Yeah, I had no idea who he was. I didn't
crazy.
Know. Yeah,
who's that 7-foot monster?
I was just enjoying this, thriller of a man making the worst decisions, one on top of the other, constantly, and just fucking over everybody, including himself. And I love that the movie sets up things to happen and then takes you in a completely different direction that still makes sense. I love that. The movie is a freaking labyrinth. And at the end of it, you're just like, fuck, that was wild, but I get it.
Yeah. It's both an advertisement for gambling and an advertisement to never, ever, ever, ever gamble for the rest of your life. You know what I mean? It's like, it's the level of like addiction and just that kind of that need, like, and that's why it uses KG so well. Cause like that, he's like this obsessive, just like, I gotta win.
Yeah.
Like how they like use like both athletics and like gambling as like their kind of twin tracks of like, but they're both just crazy competitive, like that's really the thing that binds them. And that's like what makes it so fun. Yeah. I like a lot of people walked out of mine, and I have friends that have watched it either whether at home or that I told to go see it in the theaters, and they're like, a little too stressful for me. And I'm like, dude, that's the point. I was like, that's why it's so good. It's like it makes you just like feel like the entire time, like you're just like on edge. Like the score is just this pounding, like, I mean, it's like this this like unwinding, like, and then winding back up like the entire time. Like I loved it. Like I've only seen it once since then. I watched it once at home. And I would like to watch it again. So if we're gonna do an episode about it, I'm definitely.
Oh yeah. So, yeah. I this is one of the ones that I just put on. I like if I want to feel something, like just fucking inject that shit into my veins. It's just the best. I'm so obsessed with gambling movies, and the whole kind of sound design of this movie is like my favorite part, because I've heard a lot of complaints of like the stressful part of it, or just kind of like, oh, like why do we care about this guy? Why do we care about anything? It's the sound design when people are talking over each other and there's the phones ringing and then this person ding 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 and the doorbell's ringing over and over, like, come on, let me in. KG's stuck because the door won't open. Like those moments are very hard to put to the screen.
Yeah.
And people will just kind of dismiss that aspect of it. Like, oh, I just couldn't tell what was going on. It's like that's what would happen if you were there. Mm-hmm. So the fact that they kind of nailed that aspect of it is what makes me love this movie so much. And it very much reminds me of kind of like old Altman movies from the 70s that deal with like gambling and addiction and just obsessive nature and talking over each other. I love this movie to death. So great. Love that you picked it, Connor. I had no idea. I knew you liked it. I didn't know you loved it.
Yeah, neither did I, really. I was it took a few watches, but I was like, this is special. This is something. This showed me a side of Adam Sandler I had never seen before.
Correct. It's like his best work, right? Like this Punch Drunk Love, like it just kind of taps into something really special. You and Josh did an episode on this like what, a couple years ago?
Yeah, we did. We were trying a different way to pick movies, and Josh selected Uncut Gems, and we did a whole thing on it. And that's the last time I watched it.
Okay. So yeah, perfect. Let's definitely do an episode on all three of us and we'll have a blast. That's so awesome. I love talking about that movie. My number 8 is finally bringing up my boy PTA here. 2014's Inherent Vice. Probably the weirdest movie that I've seen from the decade. Adapted from Thomas Pynchon's novel. I've read that. It's also very confusing. That's just kind of the style writer he is. This is one of those things, and this is one of my favorite things about PTA, is I don't need to understand every little aspect of what's going on. It just happens, and this is like a sun-washed California 1970s dream, this movie. It's incredible how they made this movie, and you get some really, really special stuff from Joaquin Phoenix. Really cool decision from him, really cool partnership, obviously. A couple years before, they made a little movie called The Master. And I'm obsessed with Inherent Vice. I think it's fantastic. It's his most underrated movie by a mile, in my opinion. And I think it's kind of gotten to this place now. If you look on Letterboxd, it's very divisive, but the people who love it fucking love it. 5 stars, like this is the greatest thing ever. And there's the people who are like he's just up his own ass. PTA. That's like the go-to thing for people who don't like him, his haters. And I kind of understand both sides, but I love him. So I'm of course going to kind of stand in his camp. The coolest part of this movie is the cinematography, the partnership between Paul Thomas Anderson and Robert Elswit, the guy he kind of used the most or has used the most. This movie looks fucking amazing. Great soundtrack, great performances. It's as if everyone involved was like, hey, let's do the best, most fun work we've ever done in our lives. And they all did it on the same time. So I had to have this on my list. This is definitely one of those I'll always kind of go to bat for. So when's the last time you guys saw this?
Oh boy. When I first saw Inherent Vice, I saw it with Caleb at Draft House, I think Lakeline, near his old house when he was living over there.
Nice.
And we both fucking hated it. Like aggressively, we wasted our money, kind of hated it. We did, however, like we started yelling Muto Panakeko at each other because of Josh Brolin. I did love that. I didn't give it a second thought until we did an episode. I think it was The Master on old Oscar Sunday. And I wanted to watch all of PTA's films I hadn't watched yet. And so I decided to give Inherent Vice another shot. And I only got like half an hour into it, and then I'd run out of time. But what I was into it. So I know I'm going to like it this time. So I'm glad you picked it.
Yeah. I remember you talking about that. It definitely takes a couple of viewings. The first time I saw it was in theaters. And we were 19, right? Connor and I. And it definitely went like way over my head. But I was like, this is fun. Like, it looks really cool. And the soundtrack is really, really neat. Anytime you put Neil Young in a movie, you kind of have me. But now when I watch it, it's more just like, oh my God, like Thanos is eating like a whole bunch of marijuana right now. Josh Brolin, his Bigfoot character, along with Doc, Joaquin's character, just kind of the weird chemistry they have, but also this rivalry that they have is so cool, and kind of a thing that PTA is really really good at, is having kind of two people who kind of need each other, kind of the way like it happens in Boogie Nights for sure, where you have Mark Wahlberg. He needs a lot of people in that movie. You could go with Amber Waves, you could go with different people in that movie. Like he kind of like needs to lean on, but also is like totally bad for him. I like love that he does that a lot. There will be blood. You got father son. They need each other, but also they do not need each other. They're like totally toxic. So I love that he kind of does that. He does it the weirdest way in Inherent Vice. So Phantom Thread, he does it really well. Licorice Pizza, he does it really well. I love that kind of weird tandem thing that he does in his movies, and this is the most unique.
Yeah, so I've seen this a couple times. I saw it in theaters, and yeah, liked it, but I was like, okay, it's not my favorite of his movies by any means. And then liked it even more the second time. I want a quick shout out. So Austin, both of our number 8s have Benicio del Toro and Josh Brolin in them.
Let's go.
Interesting. The characters' names in this movie. So Maya Rudolph, PTA's wife, plays Petunia Leeway. Benicio del Toro's character is Sancho Smilax Esquired. Like you said, Josh Brolin is Bigfoot. Joaquin Phoenix is Doc. Owen Wilson is Coy Harlingen.
He's so funny in this movie.
Eric Roberts is Michael Z. Wolfman, and then Martin Dew plays Dr. Buddy Tubeside. It's like what?
Michael K. Williams is in this fucking movie. Like what? Like it's just insane. And then Catherine Waterston, she's got like a really subtle, like really good performance in this as Shasta Faye.
Shasta Faye Hepworth.
Crazy cool name. This movie rocks. So I could talk about it all day. Here we go. Number 7's Adam.
Okay, I won't spend a ton of time on this one. This one is slightly complex because there's a technicality that I got it in on. So it's OJ Made in America, which is a documentary. It was technically released as a series on ESPN in 2016. I think it was in 5 parts, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
But then it was nominated for and then won an Oscar for best documentary of the year. So it's 7 hours and 47 minutes. So it's very, very long. Like I said, released in 5 parts on TV. Honestly, it's like stunning piece of like work. It's the like scope of it is massive. So it's called OJ Made in America. So people are like, it's just about OJ Simpson, but it is like it basically delves into like
everything.
Everything. Yeah. Primarily, it uses OJ Made in America and the like the kind of intersection of like the OJ chase, the trial, all that stuff, the verdict in particular, to tell the story of both like athletes in America, race in America, how like the Los Angeles riots in the early 90s led to possibly led to the verdict, but then also why people didn't really care like that the verdict was the way what it was, and how like when you tell things from a different perspective, they can mean like something completely different than if you told it from like a different perspective. It's crazy. Like I don't know, Connor, have you seen it?
I have not, because 7 hours is
it's so long. It's so long. Yeah. But I watched it in 5 parts with my mom. Like I was actually recovering from knee surgery. I had I blew up my knee playing basketball when it was being released, and we would watch like the episodes as it would come out. And like, it was crazy to watch it with her because, she's approaching it from a different perspective than I am. Like she'd watch the chase on TV, like when it happened and was aware of the trial, and also like him as a football star. Cause like, her parents were huge, like Dallas Cowboys fans. So she was like, I watch OJ Simpson all the time. He was obviously incredibly good. And then like what he became afterwards. And like, yeah, the race relation stuff is like, obviously the thing here. That's like that, like, the topic that Ezra Edelman kind of really wanted to tackle, and he just used OJ Simpson as the vehicle for that. I felt a little weird putting it on because like it basically was kind of a TV like mini series, but it did both get nominated and win an Oscar, so I thought it's fair. It was the best documentary I saw all decade. Might be the best documentary I've ever seen, so that's why I wanted to put it on there.
I would echo that. I don't know if it's not like my favorite documentary, right? Because it's like, it's 7 hours of the grueling stuff. But it is, I don't know if this is insane to say. It might be like the best thing I've ever seen in my life. I remember watching it also, like I would get home from work when it was coming out. I think it came out Monday, Tuesday, Monday, if I'm not mistaken. I remember kind of they would do like 2 nights in a row. So you get like part 1, part 2. part 3, part 4, and then part 5 was like on the last week, if I'm not mistaken. I think that's how they did it.
Yeah,
Because I remember calling you after every episode and being like, "Holy fuck!" Like Ezra Edelman, who's someone we already kind of liked because of his sports work. We were just like, the dude has totally outdone himself. Like, this is unreal. The amount of footage, the amount of crazy interviews they get, just the balls to go into some of the stuff they go into. Yeah, Connor, I know it's long, but if you break it up,
break it up. Yeah.
Like I'm telling you, man, this like it will alter the way you think. Like it is that good, that important. So I'm also hesitant to include it on a list like this, but I'm so glad it's here for the reasons that we get to just kind of like shine a light on it again. It's 7 years old already and just deserves all the praise it gets.
Okay, yeah. Also, I have it right here. So it was Friday was part 1, and then Monday was part 2, and then Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday was parts 2 through 5. So it was back to back like that. Yeah. So it's June 11th through June 18th, and in 2016. So yeah, that's exactly when I was like I said, I was recovering from knee surgery. I was watching the Euros during the day, and then watching this at night.
Yeah.
And the NBA Finals were right around that time too, and iconic NBA Finals. I basically was glued to the TV the entire time I was recovering from that knee surgery, and I thankfully had a lot of good stuff to watch.
Yeah, man. Yeah, it's great stuff. Connor, definitely find some time.
Yeah, my highest recommendation for sure. Yeah.
Well, I mean, now it's going to be an episode, so I'm definitely going to have.
Well,
yeah,
that's a tough one because if we're picking awards for it is
Yeah. No, we don't need to do it as an episode. We really don't. It's and if you knock that out, that would give us an even 25 for this project.
Yeah,
it makes sense. So
for the sake of personal completion, I will watch it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah, give it. Yeah, I'd say watch it over three spans or something, right? Like over 3 nights or whatever. I'm not sure what it's on at the moment.
ESPN Plus has it.
Yeah, so it might be okay.
Hulu might have it.
Yeah, I was gonna say Hulu might because they got that deal. Yeah, dude. Oh, Jesus, great stuff. Not getting much lighter here with Connor's next pick. This is one that I know is very important to you. Go ahead.
So back when we did an episode on what was it? It might have been a sneak preview on on one of our old shows. We were doing a Pixar movie.
Luca.
And it was Luca because we did the top. Yeah, okay, I remember that. It was Luca
with Brianna. Yeah.
Yes, and we had a moment of what, you picked it too?
Yeah.
And I decided to watch all of the Pixar films I get to see because I figured, if we're going to do top 5 Pixar, I got homework to do. And I watched Coco for the first time. And I have never cried harder at a movie. That film destroyed me on a personal level. I was bawling alone in my apartment, just watching this beautiful story of family. And it immediately became maybe my favorite Pixar. It's the only thing that's come close to eclipsing Toy Story. It is fantastic. It's a beautiful movie. I've watched it 3 or 4 times now. It never fails to break me. I cry every time. It's brilliantly written. It's beautifully filmed. It's great representation. It is just everything. It's perfect. It might be Pixar's masterpiece. I'm consistently blown away every time. I encourage anybody out there with a heart to watch Coco and challenge yourself not to shed a tear.
Yeah, I think Inside Out and Coco is kind of them being hold my fucking beer. We're gonna outdo ourselves completely. You thought Toy Story and A Bug's Life was good? Yeah, fuck you. Coco, yeah, complete masterpiece. That moment was really cool because Brianna had no idea. You had no idea that y'all both adored it so much. I knew, but y'all didn't know. And it was a really cool moment because I could see y'all kind of leveled up as far as just connecting as human beings. And that's kind of why we do this stuff, right? So, goddamn, great movie. We did it not too long ago, and we did a really, really cool project on the Coco episode where we did a Pixar Character Hall of Fame. And we picked, I think, 24 characters because they've done, at the time, Turning Red had just come out. So they had 24 movies. And we just kind of went back and forth picking characters. And it was such a blast. And then we gave awards out to Coco. So to do that again will be sweet.
Yeah, I can't wait.
Yeah, I don't have a ton to add to Coco. Coco is wonderful. I cried in the theater. Yeah, the songs are beautiful. The visuals are incredible.
Yeah.
Austin, I saw it with Brandon and Laura in theaters actually.
Nice.
Yeah, it was really random, but yeah, it was like I think it came out around Thanksgiving if I remember correctly. So
yes, it did. Yeah, Connor, I remember you didn't see this in theaters because you and I. This is around. Well, let me think. Yeah, this is around when we met.
Yeah, well, I just didn't. The trailer with Pixar, it was like I was going probably through this, like I'll randomly go through phases, or I don't anymore, but at the time I was like, it's a kid's movie, I don't need to see it.
Yeah,
and I don't do that anymore, thank God.
Yeah,
but at the time I was like, nah, I don't need to see it. And then when I watched it on my own, I was like, you fucking idiot, why didn't you go see it?
You've matured so much that you now see kid movies. That's
it is all art. Art is a wide spectrum.
I totally agree.
It knows no age.
No, I totally agree.
I one of like my pet peeves is when people like exclude a genre when they're like quote unquote, movie fans, and they're like, I don't watch animated movies. I'm like, whew. I'm gonna have a hard time talking to you because that's like where Hollywood like lives. It's like it's like it needs animated movies, it needs kids movies, it needs movies that connect families to last and to actually have some kind of respectability, right? Like Coco is such a respectable film because of what it does and what it connects. And Connor, I thought you'd go into this a little bit, maybe you will now. Coco is kind of, it has like a certain amount of importance because of its Latino pride, and the way it just kind of was like, this is the first Pixar movie that really went that route, so I just think that's huge, when a movie does that, and it's also really good, and also at times really fucking funny, and tear jerking, and has great vocal performances. That's really, really special.
Well, I was able to include Coco in my master's thesis as an example of a reclamation of stereotypes, and I had to fight one of my advisors on that because he sees it as a detrimental stereotype movie that like encourages the wrong kind of stereotypes. And I'm like, well, I don't think so. So I had to kind of really fight to put that in there. And I'm glad I did, because I will stand by Coco as an example of proper representation and just a good way to learn about Mexican culture and Chicano culture in a way that, you might not be able to with other films.
Yeah. Oh man. Good shit. I knew you were gonna have. This is one of the ones where I was like, he's gonna have. I thought it might be a little higher, to be honest. I knew this was coming. So good shit. Can't wait to talk about it again. My next one, my number 7 is also an animated movie. Any guesses?
I'm racking my brain. Can you give us like a? It's not Pixar.
Nope. It's the kind of the outlier.
Man, I don't know. I don't even know what to guess. Can you give us maybe one of the voices?
Well, that's kind of my favorite thing about it is its insane voice cast. Let's see: Timothy Oliphant, Alfred Molina, Ned Beatty, Bill Nye, Stephen Root.
Oh fuck. Okay. Yeah.
Oh,
Rango.
Okay.
Yeah, Rango. Rango is one of the first movies I thought of where I was like, I want to have an animated movie. This is the one that I have so much fun with. Gore Verbinski. This is what he always wanted to do. He only made Parts of the Caribbean so they could make enough money to be like, fuck you, I'm doing my passion project. I'm making Rango. I'm making an animated satire, Western, thriller, action movie that's got some of those beautiful animation I've ever seen, and dare I say, the most incredible voice cast of all time. I mean, you go deep down the list and you got Harry Dean Stanton's on there. Like, what? Oh, it's like got people who are now gone, that are dead, that aren't with us anymore, were just absolute legends. The Ned Beatty playing the mayor, basically kind of playing a specific character from the movie Chinatown from 1974, is so cool. All the Clint Eastwood stuff is fucking incredible. I'm in love with this movie. We did an episode on it, I don't know, feels like a year and a half ago now, and I was just going nuts during that episode. It was a blast. So I'm glad Connor could kind of handle my intensity, but I think I'm ready to do this one again and kind of find a way to maybe do something fun with the episode. These movies that we've already done before, I want to do something kind of different with them. Maybe like add a top 5 to it, add some kind of draft to it. And I think Rango, we can find something cool to do.
Yeah, Rango was a film I had not seen. I'd heard about it. I'm glad you picked it. It ended up being just a blast. Uh, a film very much, for more for parents than for kids. I think the constant
Yeah.
references to Chinatown and Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, and
Smoking cigarettes,
yeah,
there's like little animals smoking in it. Yeah, PG movie.
yeah, it's a
Great.
western, and it's a badass western, and it's fun. It's like what Shark Tale should have been. It's got a similar plot.
Yes, it does. Yeah.
But yeah, neat. I should have guessed.
Yeah, Rango. You know me, man. This is hard too because 2011. I was like, holy fuck. I can say it actually. I cannot believe none of us have Moneyball on our list.
Yeah, it's like mine, like number like 12. Like yeah, barely missed the cut.
I deliberately left it off because I was sure one of you was going to have it and we were going to be fine. Oh my God.
Yeah, I kind of was like, oh, like 2011. I was choosing between fucking Rango, The Tree of Life, and Moneyball, and I was like, Rango, baby.
Oh, thank God.
Yeah, I couldn't do that. I couldn't do that to you, man. I couldn't make you watch it.
You would have done it with one of your brothers. I would have sat that out.
I would have done it by myself, just like I'm Sean Penn talking to myself. Yeah.
I thought you might before you said the cast. I thought you might go Zootopia as your animated.
Oh yeah, I love Zootopia. Willow loves that one.
And Willow does too. Yeah, that's why
I've seen it like 100 times. Yeah, Willow doesn't quite understand Rango, but that's okay. She loves Coco. Willow like totally responds to Coco and Inside Out. She's seen a few times. So Pixar just has that element. But Rango's like a fucking Nickelodeon animated movie. And we haven't even talked about Johnny Depp because he's not the easiest guy to talk about. But what a performance in this movie! My favorite thing he's ever done. This and probably Sweeney Todd.
That is interesting. That could be the angle we take with the Rango episode, like a top 5 Johnny Depp.
Yeah, like we won't talk about him, just his movies. Yeah. Yeah. Good shit. All right, so we're through our 7s. That took a wild turn from OJ Made in America to Coco and Rango. Adam, I'm gonna make you hold off on your number 6 because it's a little higher on my list. So this is our first overlap. So Connor, we're gonna move to your number 6, which neither of us have, and this is my number 11. This is the one I had the hardest time cutting out because it's my favorite Tarantino movie of the decade.
I was sure this was going to be overlapped. Huh? Okay, it's just me.
No, barely missed the cut too.
Yeah,
yeah.
Bunch of goddamn hippies. Once upon a time in Hollywood.
Yeah, come on.
Glad you had it. Really glad you had it.
This is just a blast. Quentin Tarantino's vision of 1969 Los Angeles. Could it be any better? And I love the revisionist history with the Manson family and just the adventures of Rick fucking Dalton and Cliff Booth just driving through LA, getting into all sorts of acting shenanigans. It's great and it's fun, and it's one of my most memorable theater experiences with you, Austin, because we had just finished our Roman Polanski big episode on Filmgazm, and this felt like almost like an epilogue or like a dessert for that, where we got to just kind of bask in all of this knowledge we had and just enjoy the ride. And what a ride it was.
Yeah, this movie fucking rocks, man. This one and Waves are the two from 2019 that I feel like I'll just take to the grave with me. I'm obsessed with this one. And it's been 4 years now, right? Like it's enough time to where I'm kind of like, is this like his best movie? Like, it's like reached that territory of kind of like, I think Bastards is definitely his best from the decade before. And of course, Pulp Fiction, Reservoir, Jackie Brown, those are all great from the 90s. There's just something about the kind of tenacity that he has, and then he's kind of able to harness it with Once Upon a Time, but also have a crazy violent ending, kind of signature stuff. My favorite fact about this movie is, and Adam, we were just talking about our buddy Marty about this, because he was kind of like, he had watched it for the first time and he was like, I feel like I need to see it again. And it's like, yeah, it has that power, it's like, you're gonna come back.
Yeah, about halfway through it, he was like, yeah, I'm not really feeling it. And then by then he goes, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the coolest part is recreating 1969. You could, when you're Tarantino, you're one of the people who has that ability to be like, hey, give me a legit budget. I'm going to do what I want. No one's going to touch it. No one's going to make any cuts. I have final cut. I have final say. There's like 10 people who can actually do that, and he's one of them. And instead of kind of taking the easy way out, like a typical, especially nowadays, like a typical 2010s, 2020s movie has, a significant amount of VFX shots. And especially when they go back and, recreate a certain place in time, like a 1969 Hollywood. And there are 75 in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. In 2019, there was an average of like 800 to 1,000 in movies. Like, holy shit. So everything that you see, the signs, the billboards, all the stuff on the side of the road when they're driving, is like real. It's practical. It's like real. It's like real stuff he built. He got painted. He convinced like dozens and dozens of businesses in certain like West Hollywood areas to go back to what their businesses looked like in 1969. And when the movie was done being shot, the businesses were like, this is actually like helping our business and bringing more customers. And that is so cool. So it goes beyond what's on the screen with Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. It goes to just kind of the myth, the man, the myth, the legend that is Tarantino.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is just, I love that he continually tops himself. He's like one of the few filmmakers who keeps making his masterpiece again.
Not for long. Not for long.
Yeah, we only get one more, but it's going to be fucking beautiful. We know it's going to be great.
Yeah. He's going to do TV though.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And books and yeah.
He's written a couple novels already. I've got both of them. Excited to finally have an opportunity to read them now.
Yeah. All right. Well, the movie's fantastic.
It's so much fun. Yeah. Rick fucking Dalton. And it's Leo's best performance. Yeah. My number 6 is going to come to no surprise here. It's my only documentary. It's Mind in the Gap from 2018.
Yeah, I knew you had that. Yep.
Yeah, this is pretty near and dear to my heart. Just like shatters me. Like right from the very beginning. Bing Liu's like incredible direction. This is a story that like literally only he could tell. It's so, the vision is like so singular and so American. These 3 guys that we were following. Kiera Johnson, still follow the dude on Instagram. Love that guy. He's kind of like made it in skating and his music. And I'm just like, I like cry every time. I'm like, oh, this dude's like really successful. That's so sick. Bing Liu and Zach Mulligan. These 3 dudes, I could watch this documentary just like every week and be moved in different ways. It's like an hour and a half, very, very, very smooth ride. Not just because it's, skateboarding movie, but because it's just so well done for someone who was like 18, 19 years old when they were kind of forming it and cutting it and whatnot. So, and Bing Liu has gone on now to just like be a proper like cinematographer and cameraman for TV shows and movies. And that's so cool. The other guy, Zach, has not had such an easy go, and he is fascinating to watch in this documentary. You're like rooting for him. You're also like fucking against him at times. But man, you're moved. There's no way you're human and you're not moved by this movie. So I'm obsessed with it. Easily my favorite doc from the decade. Best is kind of a different question, but it's one that I'll go back to. I have the Criterion on my shelf right outside my living room. So this is one of those things I'll just again take to my grave.
Yeah, I remember you were really pushing for this one when we were doing Oscar Sunday. And initially, when we started that show, I was pushing back on documentaries. And I'm glad I wised up, because this was quite a watch and quite an engaging look into a subculture that I never really gave much thought to. And I figured this was going to be on here. This is one we're going to revisit, and it'll be interesting to see what I get out of it this time.
Yeah, I agree. Sure. I watched it, Austin, on your recommendation, and yeah, really, really enjoyed it. I mean, yeah, it definitely takes you into a world and kind of plops you in there and lets you kind of feel it. There's all kinds of like stuff outside of skating. Obviously, there's like real life stuff that there's the kind of relationship between like second generation immigrants and their parents, and there's all kinds of stuff in there that's like really kind of poignant. So No, really good pick. And I knew it was going to be on your list. I tried to predict a few because Austin, our dad, asked, he's like, what do you think Austin will have? And I predicted a few. I've gotten a couple wrong so far, but yeah, I knew you'd have this one on there. So not a surprise.
Yeah, it's good shit. There's a specific moment that you like that documentaries like live for. It happened in the doc from last year that won the Oscar, Navalny. There's like a moment in Money in the Gap that like happens in real time where you're like, holy fuck, like between Bing Liu and his mother. And it just kind of like, whoa, like, and Bing gets this like, obviously this like heartbreaking moment, but also this kind of therapy to like move on with his life, kind of move past it, right? And it is, it's like one of the most gut-wrenching, but kind of like, you know, life-altering moments of any movie I've seen from the 2010s. So I when docs get that moment, you're like, oh boy, like this, it's gonna, you know, it's gonna fucking rattle the stars, right? So and OJ Made in America has like 45 of those. Yeah, good shit. I think we should take a small break here before we get into our top fives. Okay, let's see. Adam, your number 5 is a bit higher on Connor's list, so let's skip that for a moment. Connor, we get to have a pretty cool moment here. Our number 5s are the same.
Thank God.
Take it away.
Get some horror in this house. This might be the most frightening movie of the decade. One of the most frightening movies ever made. 2018, Hereditary. This thing is, every time I watch this, I'm like, maybe this time I won't have nightmares. And that's not happened yet. This thing is amazing. It's a drama. It's a horror. It's a performance piece. It is everything a film should be. And I got to see this because at the time at Draft House, you let me go early because you were like, he needs to see this.
Yeah.
So I went and saw it by myself and was just like horrified because the trailer did not do the film justice. The trailer makes it seem like a possession movie, and it kind of is, but it is very much something else. And about 25 minutes into the movie, when, you know, it happens.
Yeah.
The movie's different now. You're like, oh, okay. Wow. This is new. Leading to one of the most gut-wrenchingly realistic scenes of shock I've ever seen in a movie. And I almost can't watch that part because it's too damn haunting. But yeah, this is just, it stands the test of time. It's going to go down as one of the greatest horror films of all time. And I have so much personal memory attached to it. As soon as it was over, the lady sitting in front of me went, that was some fucked up shit. And I was like, right? Then I had to walk to my car at night alone, thinking Payman was going to fuck me up in the parking lot.
Yeah, straight up. Man, this is a perfect horror movie. Like, just perfect, quintessential, and the best of the decade for me, like by a landslide when it comes to that genre, and also just right up my alley. Weird ass score, crazy cinematography. Somehow the house that this family lives in, Toni Collette, Gabrielle Byrne, Alex Wolff, and Millie Shapiro, the house they live in is almost like you're watching The Shining, where just like the way it moves and kind of like the map of it is constantly kind of keeping you on your toes. Ann Dowd is one of the all-time villains of the 2010s. She's frightening in this movie. Oh, Louie. I'm like head over heels for this movie. Absolutely obsessed. And it's one of those things where I've probably seen it too many times. Like, I've become desensitized, but I cannot help it. I just can't help it. I think it's brilliant. I saw it at an employee screening when we were working at Draft House, and pretty good crowd, right? Like, a lot of people went to see it, and everybody was just kind of like almost laughing because you like, that's your defense mechanism when you watch something that
so uncomfortable. Yeah.
You at the end, like, I remember Connor, you remember Brett, like one of the goofiest dudes of all time. Like, when the movie ended, he just like turned around and looked at me and was like, well, fuck me. Just kind of like, well, like, what am I supposed to do with that? You know, now it's 1 a.m. and like, I don't want to go home. I certainly don't want to drive home in the middle of the night after watching that movie. So I remember I saw it with like 2 of my like best friends in the world, Grant and Kelly, and we just kind of stayed up, and we're just kind of like, man, every now and again, you get this feeling that you just saw something really unique, really special, and it might be around for like 100 years. And I think that's the case with this one. So I knew Connor would have it. I knew I would have it. I'm super glad we put it like at the exact same spot. That's really cool.
Yeah. I watched this. I'm not a massive horror guy, as you guys know, but I watched this on Austin's recommendation. Saw it in theaters. Ended up going and seeing it
with Dad.
I did, yes.
I came and like sat next to y'all a few times, just kind of like, oh yeah.
Yeah. It was a little bit later in its run. It wasn't like the opening weekend or anything. So our theater wasn't like packed or whatever. But yeah, no, I want to say it was like in the afternoon too, if I remember correctly.
Perfect.
Yeah, so it's just like, you walk outside and it's like disorienting. It's like, oh, it's sunlight, but I just saw something very dark. So I'm like, what do I do?
And then what does he do a year later? Oh, Midsommar. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So no, it's great. It's absolutely fantastic horror movie. I knew you guys would have it, so I'm glad I made the list.
Yeah, it's the only like true blue horror movie that's represented here. Which,
well, at the risk of insulting Caleb and Josh, it's kind of the only one that deserves to be here.
For me, I agree. There's nothing else that sticks out like, oh my God, that's something I'm going to live with forever, But that's not, I feel the same way about like purebred comedies from the 2010s. I love Everybody Wants Some. I love like another movie I thought about was Bridesmaids. I'm obsessed with that one. But there's not like 10 comedies from the 2010s where I'm like, ooh, I'm really thinking about that for my list.
Well, Hereditary, I think the fact that every time I watch it, it still freaks me the fuck out and makes me like think about the world differently and start seeing things. That's power. That is a power very few horror films have.
Yeah. And
that's special. That makes it stick out to me.
Yeah. Adam does have a horror movie later, but it is like very, it's different. We'll talk about it later. Let's see. So Hereditary is my number 5 and Connor's number 5. Now, Adam and Connor, y'all have the same number 4.
Should I just go ahead?
Let's hear it.
Okay, it's 2014's The Grand Budapest Hotel.
Hey. Hands off my lobby boy.
Yes. An absolutely hilarious movie that every time you watch it gets funnier and funnier. You notice little things. I think it's Wes Anderson's best movie overall. Kind of like it's like his apex mountain, if you will. And the cast, if you'll allow me. Okay. Ray Fiennes, F. Murray Abraham, Matthew Almeric, Adrian Brody, Willem Dafoe, Jeff Goldblum, Harvey Keitel, Jude Law, Bill Murray, Edward Norton, Saoirse Ronan, Jason Schwartzman, Leah Seydoux, Tilda Swinton, Tom Wilkinson, Owen Wilson, Tony Revolori, Larry Pine, Florian Lucas, Carl Markovitz. I can keep going. Bob Balaban, Fisher Stevens. I mean, it's just like an absolute who's who of Wes Anderson people. Introducing Tony Revolori as Zero, and he is awesome in this movie as the kind of like second main character to Ray Fiennes' Mr. Gustav. Absolutely hilarious movie, and I'm really glad you have it on here, Connor.
Oh, I fucking adore this movie. This was an instant favorite. The first time I watched this, I was just like, I could not stop laughing. Yeah. It looks incredible. The amount of detail Wes Anderson put into this movie, like printing like fake news stories in the fake newspaper that you can barely see in the movie anyway. It just you feel a real vibrant world on the screen. I had seen, prior to watching this, I had only seen The Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou, and at that I didn't really care about Wes Anderson at the time. This movie made me give a shit about Wes Anderson. Then I was like, all right, I got to see what else this guy's done. This is beautiful. I'll put it on just for kicks. Just if I need a laugh, I'll throw on the Grand Budapest Hotel. It's so it's my favorite Ray Fiennes performance.
It's incredible and a great rewatchable. Just like one you can just pop on anytime. It's a brisk hour and 39 minutes. It's kind of perfect. The score is incredible.
Yep. Well, he packs so much into that hour 40. Like there's so much plot, and it's all engaging. It's all intriguing. It's all funny. The random bits of swearing just work every time. It's so oh shit, you got him. Like so great. Yeah.
Speaking of the random bits of swearing, so on the quotes section on IMDb, I love this. Like the first one that pops up, it's Monsieur Gustav. You see, there are still faint glimmers of civilization left in this barbaric slaughterhouse that was once known as humanity. Indeed, that's what we provide in our own modest, humble, insignificant. Oh fuck it. That's so good.
Yeah. Of course, I'm probably the biggest Wes Anderson fan of all three of us, but I don't know. I love this movie to death, and we've talked about it. We did an episode on it. we talked about it like very highly when we did our Birdman episode. When we were talking about 2014, like the Oscar race, and I was kind of like, this is one of the best movies from 2014, and is aimlessly rewatchable, so funny, so accessible. There's never really a dull moment, you know. There's never really a time where you're like why are we going to this character, you know? Where Wes Anderson movies do have those moments. You do have some times where you're like, I would have gone here instead of there. Budapest always takes the right turn, like always, every time. My favorite stuff is Adrian Brody as Dimitri. He's just such a dick. Like, I love him and Gustav's kind of their banter and how Dimitri's just like homophobic. It's just like calling him crazy names and slurs and stuff. I love that shit. I love when he's like, this criminal has plagued my family for nearly 20 years. He's a ruthless adventurer and a con artist who preys on mentally feeble, sick old ladies, and he probably fucks them too. And then Gustav says, I go to sleep with all my friends, go to bed with all my friends. It's so good.
I love his random, like, after he uses the slur, he's like, well, how's that supposed to make me feel?
This has been a complete fucking nightmare. He's just losing his mind. Ray Fiennes not up for best actor is like,
yeah, it's absurd.
Where were you? Like, the movie was up for like 10 Oscars. Like, that's the one you're gonna die on that hill, like not putting him up for best actor. Like, fuck off, you know. Crazy stuff. It's his best work. So this is a great movie. I when I saw y'all both had it, I was like, hell yeah. And y'all had it the exact same slot. Really cool.
Well, yeah. I mean, you picked the serious Anderson. We picked the funny Anderson.
Yeah, PTA and Wes definitely have a interesting. Yeah, their careers are quite different.
You know. I'm actually now looking for it. I don't know why I've never thought of this until now. I want to find a Boy with Apple like painting. That'd be such a funny thing to have, like just like in your like like, you know what I mean.
I want the one that they put like the decoy painting of like the weird, like whatever's going on with like the weird tits, if I remember. I want that painting.
Oh man. Yeah, this movie fucking rocks. So obviously we will be doing a kick-ass episode on that in the future, and we'll get anybody we can get on board for that one. The same way they did with the actual cast. Let's see. My number 4, Adam, is later on yours. So let's see. We're gonna go to Adam's number 3.
Okay. I am the only one with this. Is that correct?
Correct, but man, do I love this movie.
Okay, that is 2013's Her. The Joaquin Phoenix led, Spike Jonze directed story of a man falling in love with an operating system, which on the surface sounds like completely ridiculous. But another, I think you're seeing a theme with a lot of the movies I'm picking. Another one that just like creates a world and kind of drops you into it and a mood, and kind of keeps you there. Super emotional. Joaquin Phoenix is, Joaquin Phoenix is an amazing talent. I do get a little bit like, there's something I buck against a little bit with the like, I don't know what, there's something about him that bothers me just a little bit.
I'm with you. Post Joker was like, oh god damn it.
Yeah, there's kind of this I don't even know what the word is, like this kind of self-serious like you know, this is my method and everyone else kind of like, you know, be damned like that. I don't really like love that element of it, but he is a fantastic actor and he is so good in this movie. He's able to kind of like, I mean, obviously play this guy who's like a smart guy, like a thoughtful guy, but is, you know, seemingly a little bit down on his luck, who kind of like is empathetic to the world, but also like, you know, like kind of wants to feel stuff too. And I mean, he embodies this like kind of lonely, like 21st century. I mean, he could be a stand-up for, I guess, a man, you know, or a woman, any person trying to find love. He writes these. What is his job? He writes like basically like greeting cards or like birthday cards, like for people, essentially. Like that's like a job in the future. I also think there's the genius of this movie is how Spike Jonze creates the like kind of like not so distant future. Like really like nails a couple of things. Like, you know, it was like basically created the AirPods like before the AirPods and like how we kind of like are constantly tuned into things. He makes LA look almost like a city in like, you know, Japan or China, you know, like as we've kind of like, you know, we've shifted into kind of that. side of things. I mean, yeah, it's really well done. I mean, the cast is great. Scarlett Johansson voices Samantha, the operating system, and obviously, as a voice performer is fantastic. Amy Adams is really good in it. Rooney Mara, which I believe that's where they met, is it not?
Yeah.
Joaquin Phoenix and Rooney Mara, and they're now married, or I guess they're partners. So yeah, it's really really good. Obviously, I know you guys have seen it and enjoyed it as well. But yeah, it had to be on there for me.
Yeah, this is the movie I went to bat for when we did our 12 Years a Slave episode, 2013 Best Picture Showdown, and I chose her to win Best Picture because I thought it was the strongest movie from that year. That one and Inside Llewyn Davis, I think, are the two best movies from 2013 that I've seen. And I just think it's incredibly moving. And my favorite thing that I've ever heard about her was Adam, your one of your great friends, Matt, who's become a good friend of mine, said, "I think it's my favorite piece of art." just her, the movie. Like he could have picked an album or like a painting, and he was like, just her. Like that movie just moved me a lot. I love that about movies, that it kind of connects us and it gives me memories of certain things. And I always thought that was a really cool quote, just very simply put, but a very important statement to make, and I can see why someone or people would attach themselves to this movie. And I understand why you have it at number 3. I think it's an absolute must see. So good stuff. Yeah. Connor, what's your relationship to her these days?
I've only seen it one time. Very early on when Caleb and I started the website, we watched it as to beef up content on the site. I didn't intend to watch it. I thought the premise was ridiculous. Then I watched it and I'm like, wow, this is a very touching love story. I was very impressed. It's one I've always wanted to revisit, and I'm glad I now have a reason.
Yeah, that'll be cool.
I do find it very sad. I mean, I think the obviously the premise is absurd. Really they're thinking about it. But I think it is something that has almost become 10 years on more important as the AI craze. It's gets more and more kind of blurring the lines of reality and fiction. I think it's almost more important now than it was even 10 years ago. And I think that's one of the geniuses of the movie is again, Spike Jonze almost kind of predicting this future. And I'm one who's look, obviously you can kind of have a relationship with anything that you kind of create or is created. But it's very sad that that this is even a possibility that we would even have the discussions is it okay for someone to fall in love with an operating system? It's obviously the movie does such a good job of telling that story, but in the end when you step back, oh, that's honestly that's completely absurd. True kind of emotional maturity would be his ability to move on from previous relationships that have failed and still find a way to trust a future partner. That's the real sadness in the movie is that there are people who probably left that with kind of I think the wrong impression of this movie is saying this is okay to kind of have this artificial love life essentially, and it's no, I disagree with that. And I think the movie is saying no, we shouldn't really be doing this. We should kind of trust people, whether it's just a very traditional kind of marriage or not. Just with any person in your life, we should have these real tactile relationships that are we're both in it on the same level, because there's not one of us that's because essentially what happens in the movie is this operating system is kind of able to have these meaningful relationships with multiple people. And it's that's not really I'm veering into territory. I'm sure there's gonna be somebody listening to it. Well, actually, technically, you could have that with multiple people. It's that's not really what I'm saying. To not do that, I'm not saying the only way forward is just the very traditional nuclear family at all. That's not what I'm saying at all. But I do think with something completely artificial, completely kind of man-made, to think that that's you're gonna get the same satisfaction in a relationship with that as you would another human being is quite sad. And I think that's the movie's actually saying that. But I do think some people probably took it as oh no, this is okay too, and I don't think that's actually what it's saying. So it's very sad. It's very poignant. It's touching. There's also some really beautiful moments. I think that's the genius of how well Scarlett Johansson voices the operating system. It's you're okay, and then maybe our relationship, because we know it's Scarlett Johansson, who she is a performer. Obviously, she's for obviously anyone of a certain age, she's an incredibly beautiful actress. So it's you almost carry that with you. In the oh, I could see myself falling in love with someone with this voice or whatever. That's really the casting of that is really genius, I think, because it forces you to think about things on a second layer as well. It's a really kind of out there movie, really genius. But if you kind of give yourself over to it, I think you can learn a lot about yourself and I think human beings in general.
Yep. Oh yeah. Yeah. Well said. I think for those reasons, I think that the biggest point you made is 10 years later, it might be more applicable. It is more applicable and important.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. I mean, with dating sites and catfishes and ghosting and all these different new terms for like social media and like the way we operate as individuals and how hard it is to like become vulnerable. It's definitely damaging. So yeah, well said. I can't wait to revisit this movie. Hopefully in a couple months. I'm excited for that. Let's see. That was your number 3. Connor's number 3 is Adam's number 5. So go ahead and take it away.
Yeah.
Only foreign film.
And my only winner, my only Best Picture winner, Parasite.
Yeah,
love it.
Yeah.
God, what more could I say about Parasite?
Yeah, what do you? It's good.
This and my number 1 film, I feel like I've gushed more about than anything else. This is a film that pretty much changed the way I look at film on a global scale. It is such an incredible genre bender. It's every genre combined into one beautiful, haunting, freaky story about class and struggle in Korea. And it's every time I watch this, I'm in awe of Bong Joon-ho's talents as a filmmaker, as a writer, as a director, and just constantly like further intrigued by the class struggle of South Korea and how different it is. It's like the fucking Greek gods of Olympus and the peasants in the dirt. It's that different. And I think it's a brilliant film. I'm so glad it won Best Picture, set a great precedent for the future, and is one of my favorite films of the decade by a lot.
And it barely made the cut for this decade. It came out in like in the US, I think around October, November of 2019. So I mean, it barely made the cut. But it did, and I'm really glad it did. Also, we saw it, I think, on my birthday together with
I've told this story before because it connects all three of us. You, me, and Dad watched it on your birthday, November 9th, 2019. And on the way home, because I was driving, I can't remember where I was at that time. I can't remember, but I called Connor and I was like, holy fuck. Like that was, because we had heard like the initial wave of like the early fall, like people were like, go see this movie.
This is
like,
really good.
This new neon Bong Joon-ho movie, this Korean movie is really good. And like all these podcasts that you and I listen to, Adam, that we kind of connect on. And we were both like, all right, well, when we get some time, we'll go see that. And even Dad, who like definitely doesn't go out of his way to watch movies like this, was like, holy hell, like I was just it put me in a trance. And I called Connor. I was like, dude, this gonna like do some damage. Like this movie's gonna like be up for Oscars. It might win some stuff. I had no idea it was gonna do what it did. But then on that amazing, the greatest Oscar night in history, we were also all three together.
We were
at Connor's grandparents' house. And when Parasite was named as the Best Picture winner, I mean, I cheered as if my team won the NBA championship.
It was cool.
It's just such a huge moment, monumental moment, the coolest Best Picture winner of all time. So this had to be on a couple lists, right? It's so it's Adam's number 5, Connor's number 3. Connor, easy 5-star movie here.
Yeah, no question. Yeah, Connor, I think you hit a key point there with it opened up. I think not just obviously ours, but like it opened a lot of people's eyes to the world of foreign film. I think there's people. I think Austin, our dad, is a perfect example. Like he watches tons of foreign stuff now because of Parasite. Like he's like, I don't want to watch it as subtitles. It's like that classic, kind of boomer like thing. Obviously, I love her dad, but yeah, he has that kind of like he had that mentality, and I think
not anymore.
Was almost the tipping point. It's like, I'll see him and it's like the last 5 shows he's watched are all foreign. It's like that, there really was this like, oh, okay, like this, it opened up a whole different world. I didn't necessarily have that, starkly, but I wasn't like racing out to see, Korean, movies like that. But yeah, Connor, this movie made me both want to live in Korea and never want to go to Korea. It's like at the same time, it's like because of different elements of the movie, it's like obviously it portrays it with like a loving, detail. I think at times, and then at times it portrays the class element of it with this like real distaste and disgust. Really, talk about setting a mood. I mean, if that's the theme of my list, my goodness, this is an ultimate mood setter. It's absolutely fantastic. I've only seen it once since the theater. I almost want to like not watch it that often because like I want to kind of cherish that very first initial viewing. It's one of those ones that, like, as great as it is, like, it needs to be like this perfect moment. Like, I need to kind of clear a night for it, and maybe watch it with a couple people. That's like the next few times I'll see it. But yeah, I've only seen it once since theater, but it was an amazing theater experience, one I'll never forget.
Yeah, for sure. And it has two like genre defining bending moments that I just think is like just such a masterclass. And that would be when Moon Guang comes back to the house, the kind of like maid that they like get fired. When she comes back to the house and it's raining and she just looks scary as fuck, and you see her kind of like putting her hands to one part of the wall and her legs to the other, like trying to push this thing to like get to another part of the house. You're like, what is this movie now? And then at the end, when we do find out what is behind that wall and is connected to her, turns into a slasher movie. And you're like, what? I just was completely blown away. It was better than I anticipated. I had a hard time leaving off my list, but again, I wanted to kind of try to pick one of those 2019 movies, Once Upon a Time, Parasite, or Waves, because those are the ones that have stuck with me the most. And I went with Waves, but God, Parasite's so good. And we just did an episode not that long ago, Connor, on Parasite.
Yeah, it was great. And I'm,
Let's do it again.
I'm more than happy to go back in.
Yeah,
it's a mind bender in a world I do not mind visiting, because I've seen most of Bong Joon-ho's films now, and every single one I've seen deals with this crazy class struggle of his home country. It's clearly a really important subject that he likes to approach. I don't think he's ever going to describe it better than he did with Parasite.
Yeah, love the way you put that. Oh yeah, I'm a big fan. The Host will always be my favorite of his movies, but his best is probably Parasite or Memories of Murder. That's a great movie too. All right, my number 3 is Adam's number 6. This is for a while like my favorite movie of all time. And it's always kind of been in the upper echelon of like where I think about movies and what I think is like good, because it taught me a lot, and also just an absolute clinic of filmmaking. And that's 2016's Moonlight. 2 Best Picture winners back to back here. I love that.
How about that? Yeah.
The 2 most important Best Picture winners of all time. You got the foreign one, and then you got the one that's like a complete black cast, written by 2 black men, directed by a black man, and just a masterclass across the board. Mahershala Ali, Janelle Monáe, of course, doing like really cool stuff in this movie, and then everyone that plays Chiron through all 3 ways, and then everyone who plays Kevin in all 3 kind of, it's like a triptych movie. Everyone's just money, just like cash money. And Naomi Harris, God bless, one of the best performances I've seen in my life. It's just kind of this is just a showcase movie of just powerful writing, powerful performing, and teaching you about someone's life that you need, because like this is part of the point of storytelling and filmmaking and sharing stuff is, oh, I've never been in Miami around a black kid who lives in the projects and is struggling with his sexual identity and has to go through that kind of on his own because his mom's addicted to crack. And there's all these layers to it of just like, wow, I've never dealt with anything close to that. And so like for that to be displayed on screen, so like with such a vulnerability and such a like skill as a filmmaker, Barry Jenkins, it's just really, really vital, in my opinion, to someone who's trying to grow and like use movies as like a way to kind of have stepping stones of growing and learning. I think it's a must see. So I love this movie to death. And Adam, I was really happy you had it too.
Yeah, it was a clear top 10er for me. 5-star movie. Yeah, I think it's handled with such care. I think that's like the biggest thing is like, Barry Jenkins obviously put so much care into this, and that kind of a signature of his is just like the lingering on faces, and just like the faces in this movie are just like, you just like, you can't forget them. I mean, it's like the colors, the faces, the setting, absolutely beautiful, really beautiful movie. So yeah, it was a must have for me.
I find myself, this is like part of the reason I have it so high on my list is like, it's one of those kind of just like tough watches that I find myself wanting to take, like wanting to go down that road, because not only do I like respond to like, oh wow, this is like teaching me something. I mean, there is just some like unbelievable filmmaking in this movie, from like the beginning when like little Chiron. You know, they call him like little Black. They call him Little and then Black and then Chiron. It's like his three little names. When Little is kind of running away from these kids who are trying to chase him, I mean, it goes from like a verite style, like handheld camera, to moments of like, whoa, it's like the scope of this shot to like a Roger Deakins level shot of the beach, you know? Just like that, those decisions to kind of be like so many movies in one as far as like a style. And I just love that so much. So I kind of watch it almost as a study on like, this is how you do this properly. This is how you make, like Adam said, a like careful movie that is saying a lot. So I love it. Can't wait to do another episode on it. We did it a long time ago. I think it was episode 35 of Oscar Sunday. That was a long time ago. Like coming up on like 2.5, 3 years.
Damn. Yeah. And it'll be nice to not have to watch, 8 other movies to accompany with it.
Yeah, 2016. There are some good movies from that year, but I'm with you. Like, I don't want to watch them all. I really, like for what it is, like La La Land's fun. Manchester by the Sea is kind of like, whew, that's a tough one, but I like it. I'm not like racing to watch Lion again, but I do like most of the movies from that year. It's those showdowns were work.
They were. I'm proud of all of them, but they were.
Me too. So yeah, when we do Moonlight, it'll be more about just kind of the film itself and the production of it and how it got made. So can't wait to do that. All right, here we go. This is great. We all have different number 2s, and then our number 1s are going to be like real interesting as far as connections and whatnot. So Adam, you start with your number 2. Connor, I was a little bit shook that you didn't have this. So Adam, take it away.
Number 2 is Jordan Peele's Get Out for me, 2017. Austin, we saw this in St. Louis together, right?
Yes, we did.
With Isaiah and our youngest brother and our dad. They were visiting, and wow, never ever forget this movie theater experience.
Nope.
It was packed. I do remember it was like completely packed, and the place was just like, yeah, I don't even know.
For it. Just fucking
up for it. Up for it. Yeah. I mean, this movie has given us so many memes, so many like little like bits of lingo, like the sunken place. Daniel Kaluuya introduced himself. I mean, obviously we'd seen him in a couple other things, and for most notably for me at least was Black Mirror. But he introduced himself as a star of this movie. We get Lakeith Stanfield, we get Bradley Whitford, an absolutely hilarious performance. We get Allison Williams in kind of an underrated role. She kind of has to like hold
I agree.
parts of the movie together, and I think she does a pretty good job. I actually love the show Girls, and I thought she was like a decent part of that. I mean, her character is very annoying in Girls, but I think she's a decent actress. Catherine Keener, excellent as Missy Armitage. So and then Caleb Landry Jones, really random as the brother. Really good cast. But what makes this movie is Jordan Peele's direction and total creativity. It's horror. It's a horror movie, I guess. I shouldn't have
it is. I didn't want to like just give that away, but it's like so much more than a horror movie. You know.
Yeah, I mean, it has so many ideas about like just so many different things. I mean, race being kind of the prime one, or race relations in America being kind of the prime one. We want to talk about Lil Rel in a bit of a, who's now in like everything, but in a bit of a breakout role for him as well. So I don't know what to say about Get Out. It's absolutely fantastic.
I mean, I love everybody in this movie, but probably my favorite moment of the movie is Betty Gabriel. No.
Yeah,
it's just like spine tingling. I heard someone say about Get Out, I thought it was like the most genius thing I've heard about Get Out is, you like, if you're like a horror fan or like a thrill seeker, like you like to watch movies that are gonna like kind of make you grip your chair. Get Out was one of those where it was like, oh wow, like I didn't know I could feel that way or get scared that way. Like I thought I had seen it all. You like watch these kinds of movies over and over, and you just Get Out's one of the ones that's kind of like a trendsetter of just, oh, like you can do that. And for Jordan Peele to like, this is his directorial debut. Like, holy shit, incredible film. I'm glad we get to talk about it. We did an episode on this a long time ago too with Caleb, and that was a blast because we got to kind of talk about Get Out. What was it a long time ago? It was like last July. It was when Nope came out, and we got to talk about Get Out, us, and Nope, and just kind of like the trifecta of Jordan Peele so far, and the connection of comedy timing to horror timing, and how like it's so clear like why Jordan Peele is so good at this, because he just has his timing down so well. Get Out, while it's not on my list, I do think it's like one of the 5 like best movies of the decade, most important. So good shout.
Very funny too. It's very funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, funny too. And plays with like the audience's like idea of like, you know, police relations too, because like obviously there's a scene, you know, close to the end where it's like, you know, cop car pulls it up and it's like, oh god, here we go. You know, if you're watching it with a certain, you know, critical eye, you're like, oh, here we go. And then, you know,
TS motherfucking A.
yeah, it kind of plays with that a little bit. It's very funny. So might depend on where you see that for that gag to pay off or not. But I thought it was great. So yeah, it was a must include for me. And yeah, my number 2 was Get Out.
Nice. Connor, did you think about this one?
I never considered it for my top 10, but that doesn't mean that I wouldn't have voted for Obama a third time if I could. It's a great movie. It is a great movie. I do love it. Didn't quite make my list, but I am glad it was shouted out here. You were right. It is a trendsetter. It evokes a certain like visceral primal fear that horror films don't usually go at. Horror films tend to, you know, get you in a way where you're like, oh, that could never happen. But films like Get Out are like, no, this happens a lot. And I mean, not, you know, the surgery, but
but something like it. Yeah.
The vibe happens.
Yeah.
And it definitely proved, I mean, Peele won an Oscar for screenwriting for this. And it was just like, everyone was like, what is this guy going to do next? And he's pretty much proven himself consistently as a very interesting filmmaker with, you know, his 3 films thus far. Yeah. And I love the creativity this guy's got.
Yeah, me too, man. The more I think about Nope, I've seen it 3 times now. I'm just like, that is a masterpiece. Like, I think he has 2. I think Us has like really good moments, but overall, I don't think it quite connected the dots. But I think he has 2 out of 3 already. This has got to be like one of the 5 most important American filmmakers that we have. So, good shit. I will definitely be having you on for the Get Out discussion when we do have it in the future. Connor, you're number 2. You've been waiting for this motherfucker.
It's Tarantino's movie that I feel like people stop talking about for some reason. And I refuse to be one of those people. Django Unchained rules. That is one of the best Westerns I've ever seen. The way this guy tackled slavery was so smart and so just fucking brutal, and didn't shy away from the horrors of an entire section of our history. And we also get some great, you know, revenge fanfic with Django just mowing these motherfuckers down. Yeah. But it's also a great buddy travel movie between, you know, Django and Dr. King just doing their thing. And, you know, it might be my favorite Leo performance. I love Rick Dalton, but Calvin Candy is something else. That is one of the most evil motherfuckers in movie history.
You had my curiosity.
Yeah. Ugh, he's disgusting. In Django. Ugh.
What I love his, like, you know, his fake aristocracy he's got. Like, he wants to be French, but he doesn't speak French. Just what an idiot. He's a moron who thinks he's a genius. And also he's a sadist.
He's born on third base and thought he hit a triple, you know?
I love that. Yeah.
I also love the way Tarantino kind of, you know, picks and chooses cowboy themes from various spaghetti westerns to craft his own soundtrack here, which pissed off Morricone to the point where he was almost like, I'm not doing the Hateful Eight. Yeah. But thankfully they worked things out. I know it's a rough watch for some people. I get it. There are some brutal, unforgiving, monstrous scenes of violence in this movie. But I see that as, like, you know, the primer for, you know, the third act where everyone gets theirs. So I'm like, we need to see that. So we hate these people even more. So it feels good when their brains get blown out.
Well, it also was real life. Like,
yeah,
I mean, this is what happened. Like like things like this happen. Maybe not like on every single plantation, but like things like this did happen. Like this is like we're fooling ourselves and we think like we just want to ignore, this part of kind of like our history as Americans. And yeah, I mean, shout out Jamie Foxx. I think he's so good in this movie, and honestly, like one of the most talented dudes like ever. Like it's just like ridiculously talented guy that's like so funny and like so can go there emotionally. Also can like host a game show, but then also can sing. It's like what an interesting dude.
Yeah, for sure. I'm so glad Will Smith said no. It's yeah. I love that you point out. This was history. Slavery was not a choice. It was not a transactional agreement. It was kidnapping and it was torture for hundreds of years. And this movie shows that better than any film I've ever seen that tries to tackle this subject, because Tarantino uses violence to tell stories. And it just works, man. This movie, I watch this film all the time. I've seen this.
Yeah, it's on my honorable mention. Yeah, this is an excellent one. Yeah, one that I think is weirdly underrated somehow. It's
exactly. It had me at hello. I was immediately like, I fucking love this, and I've never stopped.
Yeah. I haven't seen this in a while. There's definitely. I don't think it's like the place to get into it with us three, but there's conversations I've had with my wife. She just does not like this movie, and for reasons that I think are justified. And I understand why there's people out there who are like, I don't want to watch that movie. I don't want to watch that movie made by that guy. I do remember seeing it when it first came out and being like, wow, that was just like, holy shit, just the incredible feat of filmmaking. So I'm excited to revisit it because it's been years, but I do understand the camp that's kind of like, all right, like we get it. Like we get the violence, we understand it. We don't like want to go through it. So I understand, but I know, Connor, you love this movie and you love the performances, you love the writing, and it's your guy Tarantino. So you have Once Upon a Time and Django. Did you think about Hateful Eight?
No, I didn't.
I love Hateful Eight.
I do too. Yeah, I do too.
I like the Hateful Eight, but I think it's a little too self-indulgent. It's too dialogue heavy. I think a lot of the dialogue is like just repeated for the sake of being repeated. And I don't think it's a great plot. So it's low on the Tarantino totem pole for me.
I like it a lot. I think it's like really funny. I think it's the thing I enjoy about that one the most. And the cast is so insane, like just the range of it. But I understand that. Well, here we are, number 2, and we're about to get to ones. I don't want this to end, but it's coming to a close here. My number 2 is no surprise here. It's 2012's The Master, Paul Thomas Anderson.
Wondering when this was going to rear its head.
I am a writer, a doctor, a nuclear physicist, and a theoretical philosopher. But above all, I'm a man, a hopelessly inquisitive man, just like you. This movie's so up its own ass. I love it to death. This is one that Adam and I saw together in theaters in College Station, and I was like, "What the fuck did we just watch? Who's this guy think he is?" I was 17 at the time. I didn't know what was going on. Right? I'd probably only seen There Will Be Blood from PTA at the time, and then it took Inherent Vice in 2014 for me to be like, okay, maybe I need to kind of dig into this stuff. And then Adam, myself, and Jeremy watched Boogie Nights all together, probably around 2015, and that's when I was like, all right, it's go time. It's time to see everything. Hard Eight, Punch Drunk Love, just go the whole bit. And now I'm obsessed with him. And The Master is one of the most just like horrifying and just kind of mesmerizing things I've ever laid my eyes upon. You're kind of forced into like one of my favorite shots of the movie is kind of the waves that get created from the boat that Joaquin Phoenix is on. Like the constant ba-ba. That's how I feel that with this movie, just kind of like, oh fuck, like you can't get out of the wake, you just like keep going back under the water, back under. He's pulling you back in. And now that I've seen it a handful of times and I love it, it's fucking hilarious. Like PSH, God bless, rest in peace, his best performance for me. That's another reason why I love it. Him and Joaquin looks like they're tandem, and like they make me laugh so hard in this movie, even when they're not trying to. PSH kind of like when he gets like hammered in this movie, and Joaquin Phoenix the same thing. They just kind of like these stumbling morons who think they think they've figured something out, right? The whole Scientology connection is hilarious to me. I think it's like one of the most ballsy movies of the decade, because PTA is one of those guys who doesn't always make his money back, but he just always does his own original work that feels very signature. And I find The Master to be like extremely underrated in some circles, and in other circles like mine, properly rated.
Yeah, Austin, you shouted out our theater experience of it. So it was Trevor and Matt that were with us.
I knew Trevor was with us. I figured it was Matt too.
Yeah.
I remember all of us were just.
Oh,
like,
no! It was Gabe. It was Gabe. It was Gabe.
Okay, yeah, Gabe.
Yeah,
Gabe,
I don't think. Yeah,
I don't think any of us like responded to it like that
Yeah.
first go.
Yeah, pretty sure it was
just-
Gabe. Yeah.
I would love to reach out to Gabe and be like, "Do you remember?"
I know Trevor was with us. Yeah, Trevor was definitely with
Yes.
us. But
100%, because I remember that was one of the first times I met Trevor, and I was like, I like this guy a lot.
yeah,
And even he, after the movie, he was like kind of angry. He was kind of like, "What was that? Like, what ride did we just go on?" And that's part of like the draw to it, is it takes like multiple viewings to really kind of sink your teeth in and start to understand what's going on, even if you don't have the big picture sense. Just from scene to scene, you're like, this is bloody entertaining.
yeah. It's grown on me since that first watch too. I think I've seen it maybe 3 times since then. And yeah, it's great. I mean, Walking Phoenix is great. Paul Thomas, Philip Seymour Hoffman. My goodness,
Yeah, lights out. Yeah,
Gosh, I miss him so much.
you pig fuck.
yeah, he's wonderful. Yeah, score's great. Yeah, it's classic PTA. In that, like, yeah, I mean, I don't even know like where to go with like his kind of like his tone and his like sense of like who we are as people, what we're chasing after, the idea of like obsession and things like that. Which is why there's another director that's coming up here soon that chases kind of that same thing, that like sense of obsession and like why do we do the things we do, what makes us tick. And yeah, it's kind of like perfectly told in The Master. With mixed in with some really beautiful shots and some wonderful side performances as well. Shout out Jesse Plemons. Shout out Rami Malek.
Yeah, Rami Malek. Yeah,
fun. Yeah, side guys. So yeah,
I
had a feeling this would be on yours. I didn't think it'd be this high, but I had a feeling this would be on yours.
I love when Jesse Plemons like just kind of like he's making this up, right? Like as he goes, he has like that moment on the porch where he's like, "This is all horseshit." Every bit of it. Or the God damn it, why can't I think of her name? Won the Oscar in 2019 for Marriage Story. Why, Connor, help me out here? Why can I not?
Laura Dern.
Yeah, Laura Dern. Duh, the queen. With the moment she has when she goes up to PSH and she's like, I noticed like a discrepancy here. He's like, this is the new work. He's just like, fuck off. Like, because anyone who questions kind of like his, any of his decisions to like progress this thing, he's just like, no, like I am that I am. Like everyone else can fuck off. It's the best. It's also a great title for the movie, The Master.
Yeah, this is quite a film. Just a great lesson in bullshit. Like the whole time. See, I came at this from a place of a complete lack of any trust or faith in organized religion. I've never thought that. From the get-go, I'm like, yeah, of course this is all horseshit. I can see what he's doing. I can see how he's manipulating these people. It's fun to watch a movie from that perspective where you're like, you're along for the ride, you're in on the joke. But I wonder if there are people out there who were like, didn't catch that part, like people who are like very, invested in their own faith and saw this as like a, oh, what a spiritual journey kind of thing. It's like, no, especially if you're a Scientologist, it's like, you need to wake the fuck up. I love that it was, this was the film that broke PTA's relationship with Tom Cruise, because he came to Tom Cruise first and Cruise was like, how fucking dare you?
Yeah. Yeah, trying to work with him for a second time after Frank T.J. Mackey and Magnolia, and nope, not happening ever again.
No, it is a cool, like, it's a great watch. It's a fun watch. It's just watching a man regurgitate bile between pages and just give it to people and watch them eat it. Yeah,
it's great. It's brilliant. It's like everything I want. It's everything I want in a movie, and I hope for that particular episode way down the road when we do it, I would love to get our other brother Jeremy on that because he's obsessed with the Master. So I'd love to get him on board for that one. We've arrived. We've arrived at number ones. What's
we
up?
should let Connor go first, I think, because ours matches Austin.
No, other way around. My number 4 is your number 1. Connor and I have the same number 1.
Okay.
So my number 4 is your number 1, which is maybe the best movie of the decade.
Yeah. Go ahead. Yeah, you got it. It's my number 1. I guess I should go. Yeah.
Yeah.
The Social Network, 2010's The Social Network. David Fincher's The Social Network. Yeah, I mean, I thought about like not like being like kind of cute, like maybe putting something else number 1 and not, but it's just like I was like, no, this is number 1. It's probably both my favorite and I think the best movie. Possibly like the most important movie or like most important story or most important thing that it's talking about for like our time. Kind of loosely based off of the book, The Accidental Billionaires. I mean, yeah, it's essentially based on that, but it's a story of Mark Zuckerberg creating Facebook. Basically, is what it. So just 5 years after Facebook is created, 2005, this movie comes out. And just in those 5 years, it tells the story kind of like brilliantly. And then the explosion of like the kind of like social networks in general from 2010 to now makes this movie even more important. And then I think the fact that it's directed by David Fincher, who's probably my favorite director, again, setting moods, and the stories of like obsession and like, drive and like, why do we do the things we do? All is here heavily. And the cast is great. The score is like unbelievable. Like it's just like perfect. It's just I've returned to this so many times. I get why people would be like, yeah, really like the social network. Like it's just like about Facebook. It's like I just think it's about like so much more than that. And it's told brilliantly, absolutely brilliantly. So
I can't agree more. Fincher at his best with Sorkin at his best. I mean, like what do you want? It's two guys. It's like Kobe and Shaq. It's just like perfect, like this perfect like meshing thing of like I can do this, you can do that. Like let's go, hitting on all cylinders with the most underrated lead performance probably of the decade, Jesse Eisenberg. Absolutely, lights out. You got a really wacky cast. From like Brenda Song to Army fucking Hammer to Max Minghella, all these different people that are in this movie. Of course, Andrew Garfield has now become this massive star. I've watched this movie an unhealthy amount of times, and usually I started thinking, I'm going to watch the opening, White Stripes, Ball and Biscuit with Rooney Mara and Jesse Eisenberg. I'm like, I'm going to watch that scene and then him running home. And then I watched the whole goddamn movie. It's one of those things where I get like warped into this movie when he starts kind of doing the face mash thing online. He's drunk and he's blogging, and the score just like boom, 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 boom. In motion, the kind of like video gamey, that plays while he's doing the blogging. I can't count how many times I've listened to that song while driving at night and just kind of being like having like an out of skin experience, out of body experience. This movie is fucking fantastic. So I kind of knew you would have it at 1. It's not my favorite just because of like certain things that these other 3 that I love, but I mean, it's my number 4, and I just think the world of it. So many people have so many like incredible filmmakers too. Like Quentin Tarantino is like, there's no question it's the best movie of the decade. Like a guy who's like so high on his own horse is like, fuck me, he made the coolest movie of the decade. I think that matters. I think that matters like longevity wise. I think that matters artistically, and I cannot wait to do an episode on it because we've never done it.
Connor, go ahead.
Oh yeah, this is one. It took me a while to get on board because when the trailer came out, I was like, why would anybody want to watch a movie about the birth of Facebook? Does anybody give a shit? And I didn't go see it. And I was just like adamant, like, I don't care. I don't want to watch this. I finally watched it. I don't remember why. I think my uncle convinced me, like, dude, you got to check this out. And I watched it and I was like, this is interesting. And then I just didn't think about it again. And then I met Austin. And he kept talking about it. He just kept saying, like, dude, it's worth revisiting. And I finally did. And I'm like, okay, now I see it. This is a masterpiece. This is a brilliant story of almost like the end of the world.
Yeah.
It feels that way, doesn't it? Yeah, it does.
Yeah, like knowing what Facebook became, experiencing that, it's like this is the day the world ended. Like we're watching it happen. The world as we know it ceased to exist, and now we live in Facebook.
Yeah, go ahead. No, go ahead.
No, feel free.
Well, he has the line, he's like, we lived in farms, we lived in cities, and now we're gonna live online. And it's like that's like the most prescient like moment. It's like, yeah, no, we do. Like we are gonna live online. Like that's what everyone does. Like it's like to the point of it's like it has created this like crippling anxiety among like a certain generation. It's like terrible. I mean, like for the most part, it's like a horrible like development. There are things that Facebook has done. There's people that it's brought together, and there's like coalitions and like some like charities have been funded that all like sure, of course, good, but the bad has like so far outweighed the good. And the tool, like what it's used for by like the people who kind of have the money to kind of manipulate it a little bit, it's just like pure evil. And it's like the like what the telling of this story through such a like at times like kind of whimsical like way, but with this underlying sense, mostly because of the score from Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross, of like darkness. Like it's like this is dark. This is dark shit that's like happening. And like, yeah, parts of it are like really funny and like how crazy how that happened or whatever. But ultimately, I view it as like it's a dark movie. Like, and it's like it's telling a very dark. It's telling a very dark future. But that's part of the reason I think it's so good, because it's just honest, about like what is coming and what is happening right in the moment. It's like to be able to make that like as it's exploding, I think it's just so impressive. And it's I think some of the cast is like, I mean, obviously there's a bunch of people that kind of go on to do a bunch of things that just have like very small parts in this movie, but Zuckerberg in particular, Zuckerberg, that's how good he was. Eisenberg as Zuckerberg is just fantastic, and I think gets better with each rewatch.
Yeah, and it's like hands down the best use of Justin Timberlake ever, ever as Sean Parker.
Yes,
I'm CEO, bitch. Yeah, like, I could talk about this movie forever. So, I feel lucky to have it in my life. That's kind of how I've always viewed Social Network. Is I can't believe I have that piece of entertainment. That's like, it's like under 2 hours. So the pace of it is like what?
Yeah.
And yeah, Adam, to your point about how dark it is, it's very much in line with Fight Club and Zodiac and these nasty, gritty movies that Fincher like loves to latch himself onto. So Mindhunter, Gone Girl, these just dark stories. So I don't think it's any lighter than any of those.
No, and the scene when he's walking, through Harvard, and it's the original, like when we first hear the score, the dum dum dum. It's like it's just that perfect little piano hit. Like it's just like I can just hear that, and I can just like feel the first time I saw that, and like every time I watch the movie, and just like having the lights off, having this movie on, like I can like, literally feel it as it's happening, which is just perfect. So I think it is like it's like this kind of, it tells the story of like the 21st century perfectly,
Yeah. The last thing I'll say before we get to Connor and I, our moment is I remember seeing this in theaters with you, and I think a few other people. I think because you were, like you said, you were almost 20 when this came out, or about 20, and I was 15. And I remember being kind of like going because you were going, or because Jeremy was going, or whatever. It wasn't like, oh, the 15-year-old Austin made the decision to like go see Social Network. It was more of like, oh, like this is the guy who did do Fight Club, so like you might like it, Austin. And I was like, okay, I'll go. Like I'll go check it out or whatever. And I remember kind of like everything like in that moment like changed for me, whether I knew it or not. Now when I look back, it is like one of those core memories of it, like changed the way I thought about movies. It changed the way I like thought about the pacing of movies and the way that like they can interest me without being interesting, if that makes sense. I feel the same way about Moneyball. It's like it's like kind of boring baseball. Like I love the joke that it's like latching on to these moments that just have just no significance to us. Like, oh, you came out to Palo Alto, like cool, bro. But it's like an essential moment to this thing that does affect our lives, even though that like little thing, like, why do I care about that? Like, why do I give a shit that he's like locked in Palo Alto now, like, and making Facebook a little bit bigger? And in Moneyball, or in Sorkin movie, there's like a Ricardo Rincon trade that's like, I don't care. But it's like, for whatever reason, it's super, super interesting. When Sorkin writes about it, you get the walk and talk and all that stuff. it just makes these things that aren't on paper interesting at all to be the most exhilarating ride of your life. So Social Network, yeah, all day, every day. Also, one of the coolest endings when he keeps refreshing to see if Erica Albrecht has accepted his friend request on Facebook, a company he created. Wow, just beautiful ending
with the Beatles playing.
Yeah, beautiful ending. That's just like chef's kiss. Yeah, so good shit. Connor, here we are, my friend. We knew this was coming all along, didn't we? This is the best movie of the decade, along with Social Network for me, and also just happens to be my favorite. Connor, take it away.
If you've been following the podcast for a while, this should not be a surprise. This is a film we cannot stop talking about. I do love that we all went Dangerous Obsession for our number one. I do love that. Whiplash.
Flip my pages, Johnny Utah.
Still fucking see you, Mini-Me. This is maybe the greatest movie ever made about obsession. I mean, holy shit. It's the most rewatchable film on my list, maybe like of the decade. It's pure brilliance. It's musical. It's scary. It's dangerous. It's a warning. It's everything. It showed me a whole new side of J.K. Simmons that I cannot unsee. He's Terrence Fletcher for fucking ever now. And showed me, Miles Teller has the chops to stand up to a guy like that. There's so many ways to interpret this thing. Yep. Does it end as a triumph? Does it end as a loss? Is it a complete loss of sanity? Is it one-upping the asshole? It's completely up to you. Was Fletcher in the right? Probably not, but maybe he got results. You can never stop thinking about this fucker. It's ever since I saw it, it's just been lingering in my head, constantly making me, think differently. Like, well, maybe I should watch it again and figure that out. I've seen this a dozen times. I love it to death. It was the first thing I wrote down. It's my number one.
Yeah, it's the first thing I wrote down as well. And I was like, everything will fall into place. I don't care as long as as long as Whiplash is right there.
I know what my tempo is. It's this.
Yeah, I'm not rushing, nor dragging.
Definitely not dragging.
Yeah, God, oof, just the best stuff. Just the juice and the product itself I love, but I also am like, the stars just aligned. You got this short film made by Damien Chazelle turned into this small budget, made a bunch of money, did a bunch of damage in the award season, mainly for J.K. Simmons as Fletcher, and just has become this giant of the 2010s that people just respect and highly regard. It's got like a 4.2 on Letterboxd. Like, fuck yeah, like a win for the small guys. Small guys are just trying to like make their dreams come true. And look at Damien Chazelle now. He always made 4 movies. Like the budget keeps getting like bigger and bigger and more dangerous. Like Babylon's one of the most wild movies of all time. So I kind of just love what this movie represents in its time and place. And man, I wish it would have won Best Picture over Birdman. That or Budapest Hotel, please. Like, please, for the love of God. I like Birdman, but Whiplash is just this. It's just an iconic movie. And I thought all 3 of us would have this movie. So Adam, I'm a little disappointed.
Well, so I basically didn't pick it because I knew you guys would. So I was like, that's gonna get talked about, and so I was like that, But no, I do think it's probably the closest we came to all 3 having one. Unless Connor, maybe there's one that you almost had that we both did, or I guess maybe Get Out.
I almost had Budapest Hotel and Parasite. So
okay.
We'd have all had that.
Yeah.
Get Out certainly is something I thought about.
Yeah.
I thought about a lot of the ones that you guys both have.
Yeah, so no, Whiplash, it definitely came close, and I've used it recently with somebody that I train. She recently played like a really big game, and so I made the like rushing or dragging like joke, and she's like, "What?" She's a big fan of Top Gun Maverick, so I was like, "Yeah, Miles Teller is like Whiplash, never seen it." So I sent her the scene, and she's like, "Oh, that's crazy." So I'll just like randomly use the rushing or dragging thing like when we're working out and stuff like that. But no, I talk about obsession. I remember going home. I saw this movie in College Station at that Cinemark. Shout out to Cinemark. And I constantly in the job that I do, like I battle the like, is it worth it? If you get results, is like how you treat people worth it? I've landed on personally, no, I don't think it is, or at least to me, it's not. I'd much rather treat people properly, even if like it doesn't lead to like the ultimate result. I guess I personally believe you can do both, but you can treat people well and get results. But that's, I think, a little bit harder to do than what, the J.K. Simmons, just like the kind of classic athlete coach tale of just like ride them, and who cares, like how, as long as like they win, like who cares, I personally don't agree with that. Which is maybe why I'll never win on a super high level, but I'm okay with that because it's like I'll take the trade off. But I'm telling you, man, that movie made me think. It really did.
Yep.
A lot of different things. And I remember going home and feeling like really locked in. I remember writing this like really long thing, not really about the movie, but it was this other like project I was working on at the time. And I just like wrote and wrote and wrote. Like, and the next day I went to a coffee shop, wrote. It's just like, it did inspire something out of me. So yeah, I mean, it's fantastic. J.K. Simmons and Miles Teller are excellent. And yeah, it was close. I mean, it's in my honorable mentions. I don't need to like mention that now, but yeah, I mean, I have no qualms with it. It's better than some of the other stuff I think we've chosen. It's just, in terms of like the kind of favorite. I guess I haven't actually rewatched it that many times. I mean, obviously it's on theaters. I've seen it maybe once or twice since then, but yeah, it's great. I'm not. I actually surprised y'all both had it number one. But I knew you guys would both have it. So yeah.
We recently on the show, especially when we did Birdman, we both like had this moment of like, yeah, Whiplash is like extremely special to both of us, and we both kind of like we kind of like came to the conclusion, we're like, this I think this is my favorite movie of the decade. We both came to that conclusion not that long ago on Oscar Sunday. And so we knew this was coming. We knew like, oh, we didn't say it to each other, but we were both like, yeah, we're gonna have some overlap. And that overlap's gonna come to the spot, the number one spot. I love everything about it. The interpretations, the inspiration you can get from it, how it's like a horror movie at times. And some of the quotes are so fucking funny from Fletcher. They're so messed up. That might show a little bit of my personality. I just find that stuff to be funny in movies. Like when he's like, "That's not your boyfriend's dick. Don't come too early." It's just like, who says this shit? Like I don't say it, but I think it's so goddamn funny to hear it out of J.K. Simmons. Fucking Jameson from Spider-Man. And the guy from State Farm commercials, just like saying this insane stuff and having the role of a lifetime. So yeah. Oh man, Connor, anything else you want to say about Whiplash?
I just find it interesting. Like I've got family who refuse to watch this because they were bullied in high school and it triggers them.
Yeah, that's fair. Like it's totally fair.
It's an aggressive movie and you got to be prepared to handle some shit. But at the same time, it's like, if you're strong enough to handle that kind of abuse and let it like transform you into somebody who can be the best at what they do, is it like, it really just comes, the constant question, is it worth it? And depending on the day, I will have a different answer for you. It's really, if I'm watching it when I'm depressed, I'll be like, he shouldn't have treated him like that. But if I'm in a good mood and I'm feeling like, awesome, I'll be like, just take it, Andrew. You're becoming a better drummer. God damn it. But I don't know. It's really dependent on my mood. It's that kind of movie.
Yeah. That's like the beauty of it, right? Is it like it adapts. It adapts to like what mindset you're in at the moment. And that's the sign of greatness. So boy, was this fun. I'm going to run through like recap ours real quick. Then we can do some, just a couple honorable mentions each.
Yeah. And honorable mentions, I really was trying to like shout them out. Like we don't need to talk about it.
Same here. Yeah.
Should we read our own?
Yeah, go ahead. Adam, you start.
Okay. So number 10, Scott Pilgrim versus the World. Number 9, Inside Out. Number 8, Sicario. Number 7, OJ Made in America. Number 6, Moonlight. Number 5, Parasite. Number 4, Grand Budapest Hotel. Number 3, Her. Number 2, Get Out. And number 1, The Social Network.
Connor?
Nice. I had number 10, Ready Player One. Number 9, The World's End. Number 8, Uncut Gems. Number 7, Coco. Number 6, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Number 5, Hereditary. Number 4, The Grand Budapest Hotel. Number 3, Parasite. Number 2, Django Unchained. And number 1, Whiplash.
Love it. Definitely describes you. I had number 10, Everybody Wants Some. Number 9, Waves. Number 8, Inherent Vice. Number 7, Rango. Number 6, Minding the Gap. Number 5, Hereditary. Number 4, The Social Network. Number 3, Moonlight. Number 2, The Master. And number 1, Whiplash. Adam, let's get like a couple from you. Honorable mentions.
Yeah, so I talked about Mad Max Fury Road already,
Yep.
and Toy Story 3 is kind of my, probably would have been in here if not for the kind of franchise thing. Everybody wants some. You mentioned Moneyball, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Those are all ones I really considered. Some ones that have not been mentioned, Arrival, were strongly considered as well, but wanted to kind of keep it to one director or one movie per director. Lady Bird, I considered as well. Baker Taylor, Soldier Spy, an underrated
Ooh, love that
book
movie.
adaptation, the John le Carre novel. That is, perfectly cast, and I think really, again, another mood setter. Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, thought about that one, the Fincher version. And then a couple other documentaries. You already said Hillsborough and Two Escobars, my two kind of 5-star documentaries I did not choose. The other two I wanted to shout out were Once Brothers, the story of Drazen Petrovic and Vlade Divac in the kind of Yugoslav, the Serbia-Croat conflict in the kind of early 90s. And then Diego Maradona, the 2019 documentary.
Oh, like
Assis Kapadia. Yeah, wonderful. Yeah.
Absurd. Yeah. Connor?
My list was pretty concrete from the get-go. I cutting out franchise films allowed me to kind of go through the stuff that I like really wanted to talk about. So I put it together pretty fast. But there were a couple outliers. Moneyball was the big one. I really wanted to keep that in there, but then I thought, it's safe. It's fine. Big mistake. In the future, I'll just take the bullet. I nearly had Prisoners.
Oh, yeah, I love Prisoners.
Yeah,
that is such a brutal, violent, unforgiving film, and I think it's brilliant. It's probably my favorite Villeneuve film. And then one that I almost put but forgot it was a franchise. Actually, two that I nearly put but forgot they were franchise films. First up, Train to Busan.
Yeah, classic.
Then I remembered there's 2 spin-off films, so I was like, shit, that movie is one of the greatest zombie films of all time, one of the greatest Korean films I've seen, and just a beautiful movie. And then the other one was Split.
Oh, okay.
That film just stuck with me. I was floored by James McAvoy's incredible performance of like 23 different characters. But then I remembered, oh shit, Unbreakable. God damn it. And yeah, so couldn't do it.
Yep.
But I'm glad I got to, shout it out.
Very nice. Yeah, I love that. Aside from the ones you guys have kind of mentioned, I'll say definitely The Lighthouse I thought about. Marriage Story, Francis Ha I thought about for a long time.
Francis
Boyhood, Roma, Tree of Life.
I thought about Roma too. Yeah,
Roma's great. Blue Valentine I love. First Reformed, I fucking adore that movie. Girlhood I also love. The Celine Sciamma film. Portrait of a Lady on Fire I love. A Separation, the Asghar Farhadi film from Iran. I love that one too. I honestly thought about Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse from 2018. I thought that movie was great.
I did too.
So yeah, there's a lot. Wolf of Wall Street's one that I've always connected with. Gone Girl, yeah. The Denis Villeneuve stuff, the Sicario, Prisoners, Enemy, all the Arrival. I love all of those movies. Blade Runner. So yeah, it's I mean, this is the decade. Nightcrawler. Fuck, I love Nightcrawler. This is the decade where we kind of get to shine the most because we saw so much in theaters in real time and kind of can connect back to them. So this is an absolute blast. Thank you both for your passion, your kind of presence, throughout this long beefy episode. I really hope people take these recommendations and run with them or rewatch them. The power of rewatching is real. So our plan is to have an episode for every film that was talked about here, aside from OJ Made in America, because 8-hour film. How do you do an episode on that? But
this also probably isn't the podcast for that talk too. Yeah, that belongs.
No.
Yeah.
No. Yeah, probably for some other folks out there. But we'll start off with Scott Pilgrim vs. the World. We'll try to do that next week sometime. So super stoked, and we'll go down the line. We'll do Connor's 10, my 10. We'll just go that way, leading up all the way to Social Network and Whiplash. That's gonna be awesome. So it'll be good for us to revisit movies that we love and get a chance to pick awards for them. And also, you never know what gateways are going to open, what doors are going to open for you as far as films go. Not like when I rewatch Sicario, I'm probably going to try to rewatch other Denny movies and kind of see what I love about those as well on a rewatch. So I can't wait. It's going to be fun, and we'll do this again later down the line for the 2000s, the 90s. We're just going to try to make this a series. So I'm really looking forward to it. And hopefully, all three of us can be on Scott Pilgrim.
Yeah, definitely. Would love to. That was fun.
All right, Connor, any closing thoughts here?
This is a great idea. I'm looking forward to, re-experiencing a lot of these films and finding new ones and doing this again for different decades. This is a really cool idea, and I'm glad to be a part of this. Thanks for leading this one.
Yeah, we are Sex Bombs. We'll see y'all next week. Keep watching movies.